The day is over. The house is still, and the world outside has surrendered to the quiet of the night. Your body is heavy with fatigue, a deep and honest tiredness earned from the hours behind you. And yet, you are awake. You lie here, in the soft darkness, and notice that while your body craves rest, your mind has other plans. It's a familiar paradox, this feeling of being exhausted, but unable to find the switch that turns everything off. The seconds tick by, each one a small reminder of the sleep that feels so close, yet impossibly far. A list of tomorrow's tasks begins to scroll behind your eyes. Uninvited, a conversation from yesterday replays itself, searching for different words, different outcomes, a wave of anxiety about the future, a faint echo of regret about the past. They come and go, these thoughts and feelings, like restless ghosts in the otherwise peaceful sanctuary of your room. You are not alone in this struggle, this experience, this nightly battle with a mind that refuses to settle is a quiet epidemic of our modern world. We have been taught to do, to achieve, to solve, to analyze. Our minds have become incredibly skilled at this, like a muscle trained for one specific task. We call it the monkey mind. That part of our awareness that leaps from branch to branch, from one thought to the next, never pausing, never still. And when the time for rest comes, we command this mind to be quiet. We order it to be empty, and we become frustrated when it cannot obey. We push against the thoughts. We fight the anxieties. But this struggle is like trying to flatten a stormy sea with your hands. The more you fight, the more you resist, the more turbulent the waters become. This internal war is exhausting, and it is a war that can never truly be won. But what if there is another way, a path that does not involve fighting, or forcing, or even winning? What if the path to peace, to the deep and restorative sleep you long for, is not found in demanding silence, but in learning to listen differently? This is the gentle wisdom offered by Zen practice, not as a complex philosophy or a rigid religion, but as a practical art of living. It is a path of allowing, of observing, of befriending the very mind that seems to be your adversary. It suggests that peace is not the absence of noise, but a different relationship with it. It invites you to believe, just for tonight, that you don't need to silence the storm within you. You only need to find the calm, still center that has been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the waves. This journey is not about trying harder, but about letting go, softer. So let us begin, not with an action, but with an acknowledgement. Let us turn our attention inward, to the very space between our ears where the noise seems to live. For centuries, Zen masters have used a simple, powerful name for this restless internal state. They call it the monkey mind. It's a perfect description, isn't it? Picture a small, excitable monkey in a vast jungle. It does not stay on one branch for long. It swings from a memory of your childhood to a worry about a deadline tomorrow. It leaps to a snippet of a song you heard this afternoon, then jumps to the question of what you might have for breakfast. It chatters incessantly, driven by impulse, craving the next shiny fruit, the next interesting leaf. It is not malicious. This monkey, it is not trying to keep you awake. It is simply being a monkey. Its nature is to move, to grasp, to chatter. And for our entire lives, we have been rewarding this monkey, feeding it with constant stimulation, with screens and schedules and endless information. Now, in the quiet of the night, when we ask it to be still, it simply does not know. It continues to do the only thing it has ever been trained to do. Our first, most common, and most draining mistake is to try and tame this monkey by force. We lie in bed and we command it. Be quiet. We scold it. Stop thinking so much. We become the zookeeper, chasing the monkey with a net, trying to trap it and lock it in a cage of emptiness. But what happens when you chase a frantic monkey? It only becomes more frantic. It screeches louder. It leaps faster. It becomes more agitated. The very act of chasing creates more chaos. This is the paradox of mental control. When you tell yourself, "I must not think about my problems," your mind immediately conjures every single problem in vivid detail. When you insist, "I must clear my mind," you become acutely aware of just how full it is. This struggle, this internal wrestling match, generates its own energy. It is a form of tension, a tightening in your forehead, a clenching in your jaw, a subtle bracing throughout your entire body. You are, in essence, fighting with yourself. And this fight, this resistance, is the very opposite of the state required for sleep. Sleep is not a victory to be won. It is a surrender to be embraced. There is an old story that illustrates this perfectly. It tells of a man who owned a small boat on a lake that was prone to sudden, violent storms. One evening, a fierce wind whipped the water into a frenzy of sharp, chaotic waves. The man, determined to go out, became frustrated by the unruly water. He believed that if he could just make the surface of the lake smooth, he could find peace. So he took a large, flat wooden plank, and he began to strike the water with it. He smacked the tops of the waves, trying to beat them down, trying to force them into submission. But with every powerful slap of the plank, the water exploded. He would flatten one wave, only for his effort to create a dozen smaller, more chaotic ripples that spread in every direction. The more force he used, the more he sweat and strained, the more the lake churned and foamed. He was creating the very storm he was trying to quell. Exhausted, drenched, and utterly defeated, the man finally gave up. He dropped the heavy wooden plank into the water, and then he simply watched. The plank did not sink. It floated. It rose gently with the crest of a large wave, and it fell softly into the trough. It did not resist the water. It moved with it. It became a part of the lake's rhythm. As the man sat there, no longer fighting, no longer resisting, his own energy ceased to feed the chaos, and in the absence of his struggle, the wind began to die down on its own. The waves grew longer and slower, and the lake, in its own time, gradually returned to a state of glassy calm. You, right now, are that man. Your mind is the lake, and your effort to force it into silence is that wooden plank. The invitation of this moment is to simply drop the plank. It is to make a radical shift in your intention, away from fighting and toward allowing. It is the beginning of a profound peace treaty with your own mind. The new instruction is not stop thinking. The new instruction is let's just watch. Let's see what is actually here. Without judgment, without criticism, and with a gentle, boundless curiosity. This is the first, most fundamental practice. It requires no special posture, no special technique, only a small change in your attitude. So as you lie here, give yourself permission, grant your mind total freedom to be exactly as it is. If it is stormy, let it be stormy. If it is calm, let it be calm. If it is full of chattering monkeys, let them chatter. Your only task is to observe. Imagine you are lying on your back in a field of soft grass, looking up at a vast, blue sky. This sky is your awareness, your consciousness. It is inherently peaceful, spacious, and unchanging. Your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, they are simply the weather of this sky. They are the clouds that drift through. As a thought of worry about work appears, see it as a dark, heavy-looking cloud. Don't try to push it away. Don't yell at it to leave. Just notice it. Ah, there is a worry cloud. Notice its shape, its color, its texture, and then watch as it slowly, eventually, drifts on by. Perhaps a pleasant memory appears, a happy moment from your day. See it as a light, wispy, white cloud. Smile at it. Enjoy its presence, and watch as it too continues on its journey across the sky. An anxious thought might feel like a fast-moving, jagged little cloud. A sad feeling might be like a slow, grey sheet of rain. Some thoughts are loud, some are whispers, some are interesting, some are boring. It makes no difference. Your job is not to be the weather forecaster, predicting and judging. Your job is to be the sky itself, allowing all weather to pass through without resistance. The sky does not cling to the beautiful clouds, and it does not recoil from the storm clouds. It provides the space for all of it to happen. Practice this now. For the next few moments, just lie here and be the sky. A thought about an unpaid bill may arise. Acknowledge it. Ah, a bill thought, and let it float. A memory of a loved one's face may appear. Acknowledge it. Ah, a memory cloud, and let it drift. You may find the monkey mind is especially active, creating a sky full of fast-moving, overlapping clouds. That is perfectly fine. Don't get caught up in trying to track every single one. Just maintain the perspective of the vast, open sky that holds all of them. The key is the gentleness of your return. The monkey mind will inevitably hook you. You will forget you are the sky, and you will find yourself flying along with one of the clouds, caught up in its story. This is not a failure. It is simply the nature of the mind. The moment you realize you have been carried away, you have already succeeded. In that moment of realizing, you are back to being the sky. Simply acknowledge, ah, I was flying with that cloud, and gently return your perspective to that of the vast, open space. There is no need for self-criticism. Every time you get lost and then gently return, you are strengthening the muscle of mindfulness. You are practicing the art of letting go. This is not about achieving a perfectly empty sky. A sky with no clouds can be quite boring. It is about realizing that you are the sky, not the weather. This realization, this shift in identity, is the beginning of true freedom and deep rest. You have met the unquiet mind. You have acknowledged its noise, and you have chosen to lay down your arms, You have dropped the plank into the water. Now that we have acknowledged the presence of these waves, this constant motion, we can learn to introduce a gentle point of stability, not to stop the ocean, but to give ourselves an anchor so that we are not lost in the swell. This anchor, always available, always present, is the breath, having allowed the weather of the mind to pass through the vast sky of your awareness. You may have noticed that while you are no longer fighting the waves, you can still feel adrift. The thoughts, though observed, can still pull you into their current. What we need now is not a dam to stop the river, but an anchor to steady our boat. We need a single, reliable point of focus that can hold us gently in the present moment. A place to return to when the winds of worry or memory begin to blow. You do not need to search for this anchor. You do not need to create it. You have carried it with you every moment of your life. It is your breath. The breath is a miracle of quiet constancy. It is the most honest and dependable process in your entire existence. Your thoughts are liars. They live in imagined futures and embellished pasts. Your emotions are fickle, changing with the slightest provocation. But your breath, it is always here, always now. It cannot breathe in the past. It cannot exhale in the future. Each breath is a perfect, self-contained unit of the present moment. It is the rhythm that stitches your life together, the invisible thread connecting your mind to your body. When your mind is agitated, filled with fear or anger, notice how the breath becomes shallow, fast, and tight. When your mind is calm and peaceful, the breath naturally deepens, slows, and becomes effortless. The connection is undeniable. This gives us a profound key. While it is difficult to grasp the fleeting clouds of thought, it is very possible to rest your attention on the steady rhythm of the breath. And by doing so, by simply paying attention to this calm rhythm, you send a gentle, powerful message back to the nervous system. A message that says, all is well, you are safe, you can rest. So now, let us bring our attention to this faithful anchor. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to change. Your body has been breathing perfectly, without your help, your entire life. Your only task is to become a curious observer of this process that is already happening. Let your attention rest softly at the entrance of your nostrils. Without forcing it, simply notice the sensation of the air as it enters your body. You might feel a subtle coolness as the in-breath begins, a gentle touch on the inside of the nostrils. Just feel that, and then, as you exhale, you might notice a corresponding sensation of warmth as the air, having been warmed by your body, now passes out again. There is no need to make it deeper or slower. Just feel the cool air coming in and the warm air going out. Stay with this simple, delicate sensation for a few moments. Cool in, warm out, a gentle, rhythmic tide of air. If you find it difficult to feel the sensation at the nostrils, that is perfectly fine. You can move your attention to your chest, place a hand there if it helps, or simply bring your mind's awareness to that area. Feel the gentle, subtle lift of your chest as the lungs fill with air. It's a movement of expansion, of making space, and then feel the corresponding softening, the gentle fall of the chest as the air is released, rising on the in-breath, falling on the out-breath. It's like watching a slow, peaceful wave on a calm ocean. There is no effort, just a natural expansion and release Feel the fabric of your clothing move slightly with each breath. Feel the steady, reliable rhythm under your skin. Or perhaps it feels more natural for you to rest your attention on your abdomen. You can place a hand on your belly and feel it gently swell as you breathe in, as the diaphragm pushes down to draw air deep into the lungs. And then feel the abdomen softly fall back toward the spine as you breathe out. A gentle swelling and a gentle falling. This is often called belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. And it is one of the most direct ways to signal to your nervous system that it is time to relax. The long, slow stretch of the vagus nerve, which runs through this area, is a powerful antidote to the body's stress response. But again, you are not trying to force this. You are simply resting your awareness on the sensation that is already there. The gentle rise and the gentle fall. Choose whichever of these three locations feels most clear and comfortable for you tonight. The nostrils, the chest, or the abdomen. Let that be your home base. Your point of return. Think of yourself as a tightrope walker, suspended high above a canyon. The canyon floor below is filled with the chaos of your life, all the worries, the plans, the regrets, the what-ifs. If you look down, if you allow your gaze to be captivated by the turmoil below, you will lose your balance, you will wobble, and you will fall. The secret to crossing the canyon is to keep your eyes fixed on one unmoving point ahead of you, to focus only on the rope and the feeling of your very next step. Your breath is that rope. The swirling chaos of the monkey mind is the canyon below. By resting your attention on the simple, physical sensation of your breath, you are choosing not to look down. You are holding your focus in the safety of the present moment, taking one step, one breath at a time. The canyon is still there. It is, but for now, it does not have your attention. Your attention is on the feeling of your foot on the rope, the feeling of the air in your lungs. To help steady this focus, we can introduce a very simple and ancient technique. The practice of counting the breath. It gives the monkey mind a small, simple job to do. Just enough to keep it occupied so that it doesn't wander off into the canyon. The practice is this. As you breathe in, you mentally note the number 1. As you breathe out, you again mentally note 1. Then, with the next inhalation, you think 2. And on the exhalation, 2. You continue in this way, all the way up to the number 10. Inhale 3. Exhale 3. Inhale 4. Exhale 4. The rhythm is slow, unhurried, matching the natural pace of your breathing. The purpose of this is not to achieve a perfect count to 10. The true practice happens when you get lost. And you will get lost. Your mind will wander off. You might be on breath number 4. And suddenly you find yourself composing an email in your head or replaying a conversation. You might suddenly realize you've counted up to 17 without thinking. This is not a mistake. This is the moment of mindfulness. The moment you realize, oh, I've lost the count. You have just woken up. That is the victory. In that moment, without any frustration, without any self-criticism or sigh of disappointment, you simply, gently, and kindly let go of the thought that carried you away. And you begin again, back at 1. Inhale 1. Exhale 1. This practice is a beautiful training in gentleness and self-compassion. Each time you begin again at 1, you are reinforcing the habit of returning to the present moment without judgment. You are training the mind, not by whipping it into submission, but by patiently and lovingly guiding it back home, again and again and again. So try this now, for a little while, silently counting and gently returning each time you wander. And if you find that even counting feels like too much effort, then simply let it go and return to the pure, simple sensation of the breath itself. This anchor is always here for you, a quiet harbor in any storm. Having found this anchor, let us now begin to expand our awareness, allowing this sense of calm presence to spread from the breath and into the very vessel that holds it. Your physical body, with your attention resting gently on the anchor of your breath, you have found a place of stability in the present moment. Now, we will begin to expand that awareness, to unfurl it like a soft blanket, and lay it over the whole of your physical self. For most of our waking lives, we live as if we are disconnected heads, carrying our bodies around as a necessary vehicle, but rarely truly inhabiting them. Our minds are busy in the future, planning and worrying, or lost in the past, remembering and regretting. All the while, our body is right here, in the present moment, quietly absorbing the consequences of our mental states. It is the silent partner that carries the tension of our deadlines, the ache of our sadness, and the fatigue of our struggles. The practice of the body scan is an act of reunion. It is a homecoming. It is a way of saying to your body, I am here with you now. I am listening. There is a story of a world-renowned cellist, known for the impossibly beautiful and emotive music she created. Before every performance, she had a ritual that never changed. She wouldn't just sit down and begin to play. Instead, she would take a soft cloth and slowly, mindfully, wipe down her instrument. She would feel the smooth, curved grain of the wood. Polished by years of dedication, she would gently touch the strings, feeling their taut, vibrant potentiel. She would trace the elegant shape of the scroll and feel the solid connection of the endpin to the floor. She was not just cleaning her cello, she was communing with it. She was listening to it, feeling its current state, honoring it as her partner in creation. She knew that to create transcendent music, she had to be in perfect harmony with her instrument. To understand its every resonance and tension, your body is your instrument. It is the vessel through which you experience the entirety of your life. And before it can play the beautiful, healing music of sleep, it asks only that you pay attention to it, that you listen to its story and honor its presence with kindness. So let us begin this communion. Bring your awareness, that gentle, curious focus, all the way down, 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 through your body, to the very tips of your toes. Can you feel them? You may not feel much at all, and that's perfectly fine. We are not trying to create a sensation, only to notice what is already here. See if you can feel your big toe, then the next, and the next, all the way to the smallest. Feel the space between your toes. Feel the tops of your feet, the arches, and the soles of your feet resting against the sheets. Notice the points of contact, the pressure of the heel against the mattress. This part of your body has carried you through the entire day. Now, it is their turn to be carried. As you breathe in, imagine you could send your breath like a wave of warm, soothing energy all the way down to your feet. And as you breathe out, imagine any tiredness, any ache, any tension flowing out from the soles of your feet and dissolving into the ground below. Now, allow your awareness to travel slowly upward to your ankles, your calves, and your shin bones. This area can often feel tight, braced for the next step. Just feel into it. Notice the shape of your calf muscles. Notice the solidness of the bone. You don't need to change anything. You are simply bringing the gentle light of your attention to this part of yourself. Breathing in, invite a sense of softness and release into your lower legs. Breathing out, let go of the need to stand, the need to walk, the need to run. Just allow them to be heavy, relaxed, and completely supported. Let your awareness continue its journey up to your knees, both the front and the back, and then into the large, powerful muscles of your thighs. These muscles work so hard for us. Feel their weight, their density. As you breathe in, send gratitude and relaxation into these muscles. As you breathe out, imagine them letting go, becoming soft and spreading out against the surface beneath you. Feel the entire length of both your legs now, from the hips to the toes, becoming heavy, warm, and deeply relaxed. Let your focus now gather in the area of your hips, your pelvis, and your buttocks. This is the solid, bony cradle of your body, an area that often holds deep, unconscious tension related to security and control. Feel its weight sinking down into the bed. Let go of any clenching. With each out-breath, give yourself permission to release a little more, to trust the support beneath you more fully. You are safe. You are held. Now, bring that soft awareness into your lower back. For so many of us, this is a place of chronic ache and strain. Don't try to fix it. Just bring a kind, gentle awareness to it. Breathe into the lower back, imagining you are creating space between the vertebrae. And as you breathe out, just let it soften. Allow your awareness to sweep up your spine, through the middle back, feeling the places where it makes contact with the bed, and all the way up to your upper back and shoulder blades. Feel the width of your back, and let it release. From your shoulders, let your attention flow down both of your arms simultaneously. Feel the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms, your wrists, and then your hands. Our hands are the primary agents of our doing in the world. They grasp, they hold, they type, they fix. Now is the time for them to simply be. Feel your hands resting. Notice the palms. Perhaps they are warm, perhaps tingling. Feel the backs of your hands. And then, bring your focus to each finger. One by one, the thumb, the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, and the pinky finger. Feel the energy in your fingertips. As you breathe out, imagine all the doing of the day draining out through your fingertips, leaving your hands and arms feeling empty, peaceful, and still. Now, bring your attention to one of the greatest storage sheds of tension in the entire body, your shoulders and your neck. Throughout the day, as we face stress, our shoulders have a tendency to creep up towards our ears, as if we are bracing for a blow. Consciously invite them to release. As you exhale, imagine your shoulders melting down and away from your ears. Like warm butter, feel the muscles of your neck, both the front and the back, becoming soft and long Let go of the need to hold your head up. The pillow is doing that for you now. Allow your head to feel heavy, completely supported. Finally, let us bring this gentle, healing awareness to the small, intricate muscles of your face. We hold so much emotion here. Start with your jaw. Let it go slack. Allow your teeth to part slightly, and your tongue to rest softly in the bottom of your mouth. Let go of any clenching. Soften the area around your mouth and your cheeks. Let your eyes feel heavy in their sockets, and release the muscles all around them. You have done enough seeing for one day, and now bring your attention to your forehead and the space between your eyebrows. This is a place where we hold the tension of concentration and worry. Imagine that space becoming wide, open, and completely smooth, like a still lake at dawn. Let this feeling of smoothness spread up over your entire scalp. Take a deep, gentle breath, and as you exhale, feel your entire body as one single field of sensation. From the tips of your toes to the crown of your head, feel the gentle tingling, the warmth, the heaviness, the stillness. Your entire body is breathing. The whole vessel is at rest, anchored in the present moment, held in a state of profound peace. You have come home. As you rest in this state of deep physical relaxation, you might begin to notice other things. A flutter of nervousness in the belly that remains, even though the muscles are soft. A dull ache of sadness in the center of the chest, unrelated to any physical pain. By inhabiting the body so fully, we have opened the door to the heart, and we can now feel the subtle weather patterns of our emotions, waiting for our kind attention. As your body lies here, bathed in stillness, you may begin to notice that the landscape of your inner world is not entirely flat. Even with the muscles relaxed and the breath flowing gently, there are subtle topographies of feeling, an island of unease in the chest, a hollow valley of loneliness in the pit of the stomach, a faint tremor of excitement vibrating through your limbs. These are the textures of your heart, the emotional energies that flow through you. For so long, we have treated these feelings as problems to be solved, or as identities to be worn. When anxiety arises, we say, "I am anxious." When sadness visits, we believe, "I am sad." We merge with the feeling, becoming one with it. And in doing so, we give it the power to define our entire reality, to drown us in its story. Tonight, we will learn a different way. We will learn to be the host, not the feeling itself. Imagine your being is a spacious, welcoming guest house on a well-traveled road. You are the wise and patient innkeeper. Your policy is simple. All travelers are welcome. You have seen every kind of guest imaginable. One evening, a guest named Anger stomps through the door. He is loud, red-faced, and complains about everything. He slams his fists and speaks in a harsh, blaming tone. The old you, the untrained innkeeper, would have argued with him, tried to throw him out, or perhaps even become angry yourself, adding to the noise and chaos. But the wise innkeeper simply nods. You say, "Anger, I see you. You have traveled far and are full of fire. There is a room for you here. Stay as long as you need." You do not argue with his story. You simply offer him space. Later that night, a new guest arrives, wrapped in a heavy, grey cloak. This is Sadness. She weeps quietly in a corner, speaking of loss and disappointment. The old you might have tried to cheer her up, or worse, become overwhelmed by her sorrow and started weeping too. But the wise innkeeper simply brings her a warm blanket and a cup of tea. You say, "Sadness, I see you. Your heart is heavy. There is a quiet room for you here. You are safe to feel your grief." You don't try to fix her. You simply offer her compassion. And then, perhaps in the middle of the night, anxiety arrives. He can't stand still. He paces back and forth, wringing his hands, whispering about all the terrible things that might happen tomorrow. The old you would have paced with him, getting lost in his catastrophic stories. But the wise innkeeper calmly says, "Anxiety, I see you. You are full of restless energy. There is a long hallway here where you can pace. The floor is strong. You will not harm anything." You offer him acceptance. You, as the innkeeper, remain unchanged. You are not anger. You are not sadness. You are not anxiety. You are the space that holds them all. You know that no guest stays forever. Anger will eventually tire and move on. Sadness will cry her tears and feel a little lighter. Anxiety will exhaust his energy and find a moment of stillness. And other guests will arrive too. Joy, a laughing, radiant visitor. Peace, a guest who sits contentedly by the fire, saying nothing at all. Your guest house is open to them all. This is the first and most profound shift in perspective. Your emotions are not you. They are temporary visitors, passing energies, flowing through the vast, open space of your awareness. Just as the sky is not the thunderstorm, you are not your anger. The sky is not the fog. You are not your sadness. The weather is what happens within the sky. And the sky provides the space for all of it, remaining fast, clear, and fundamentally peaceful behind it all. To help cultivate this perspective of the wise innkeeper, we can use a simple, gentle tool. It is the practice of naming or noting when you feel the familiar tightening in your chest, the first stirrings of anxiety. Instead of letting your mind spin into the story of, "I'm so anxious. What if this happens? What if that happens?" You can just softly say to yourself, "Ah, this is anxiety." Or even more simply, anxiety. When a wave of irritation washes over you, just note, anger, when a feeling of melancholy arises, sadness. This act of naming is incredibly powerful. It does two things. First, it immediately creates a small space between you, the observer, and the emotion, the observed. You are no longer drowning in the wave. You are on the shore, watching it. Second, it shifts the activity in your brain from the primal, reactive centers to the more conscious, thoughtful regions. It brings a glimmer of light into the dark, tangled room of pure emotion. The label should be soft, gentle, and non-judgmental. It is not an accusation. Ugh, anger again. It is a simple, tender recognition. Ah, my old friend anger has come to visit. With this space created, we can now take the next step, which is to investigate the feeling with a kind and curious attention. We can ask the question, how do I know this feeling is here? And the answer is always found in the body. Emotions are not just abstract concepts. They are physical events. They are energy patterns that manifest as tangible sensations. So now, Become a gentle scientist of your inner world. If you notice the presence of anxiety, ask yourself, where does it live in my body right now? Scan your physical form with your awareness. Is it a buzzing or a vibration in your hands and feet? Is it a cold, hollow feeling in your stomach? Is it a tightness that wraps around your chest like a band? Is your breathing shallow? Does your heart beat faster? There is no right or wrong answer. Just notice your unique, personal signature of that emotion. Once you have located it, your task is not to destroy it or banish it. Your task is to do the opposite. It is to turn towards it with care. Let's say you feel anxiety as a tight knot in your solar plexus. Now, using the anchor of your breath, imagine that you could breathe directly into that knot. As you inhale, imagine your breath is a warm, golden light, full of kindness and acceptance, and you send that breath right to the center of the tightness. You are not trying to blast it away. You are surrounding it, holding it, infusing it with space and softness. And as you exhale, just feel a gentle release. You are not trying to breathe the anxiety out. You are simply breathing into it, letting it be, and allowing it to have the space it needs. This is a profound act of self-compassion. For so long, we have run from these uncomfortable feelings. Now, we are learning to stay. We are learning to be our own loving parent, holding our frightened inner child. We are being the wise innkeeper, offering a warm blanket to the weeping guest. You can do this with any emotion. The heat of anger in your face, the heavy weight of sadness on your shoulders. Breathe into it. Hold it with kindness. Let it know it is allowed to be here. Paradoxically, when we stop fighting these feelings and offer them this unconditional, kind attention, they often begin to soften and dissolve on their own. They have delivered their message. They have been heard. And now they can move on. So rest here for a moment, in the spacious guest house of your own being. Whatever guests arrive, let them come. Greet them with a gentle noting, ah. Loneliness, ah. Frustration, ah. Peace. Locate them in the body and offer them the warm, compassionate embrace of your breath. You are the host. You are the sky. You are the loving awareness in which all of this is unfolding. As you become more familiar with these emotional visitors, you may start to notice something else. They rarely travel alone. They are almost always accompanied by stories, by justifications, by the incessant chatter of the mind. Anxiety brings its litany of worries. Sadness replays its memories of loss. To understand our inner world even more deeply, we must now turn our gentle attention to the nature of these stories themselves, to the ever-flowing, ever-changing river of our thoughts. When we learn to gently open our hand, to release the tight grip on a painful memory or a future worry, something remarkable happens. In the space created by that release, we begin to see not just the story we were holding on to, but the nature of reality itself. We take the courage we learned in letting go of our inner world, and we turn it outwards to observe a fundamental law of existence, a truth so profound and pervasive that it governs everything from the life of a star to the duration of a single thought. This is the wisdom of impermanence. In the ancient language of the Buddha, this is known as anicca. It is often described as a river, a constant, flowing, ever-changing current. You cannot step into the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and you are not the same person. To understand this is not to be pessimistic. It is to become a realist. And in that realism, we find an unexpected and unshakable peace. Look around you, and within you, everything you perceive is in a state of flux. Your body, which feels so solid, so you, is a testament to this constant change. You are not the same person physically you were 7 years ago, 10 years ago, or as a child. Most of the cells that make up your form have died and been replaced over and over again. The face that looks back from the mirror is a temporary arrangement of atoms, a single frame in a lifelong movie. Your feelings are even more fluid. A moment of intense joy visits you, colors your entire world, and then it recedes. A wave of deep sadness washes over, feeling as if it will last forever. Yet it too eventually subsides. Our thoughts are the most ephemeral of all, like clouds skittering across the vast sky of the mind. One moment, a worry about a deadline. The next, a memory of a childhood song. Then a plan for dinner. They arise, they linger for a moment, and they dissolve. This is true for the world outside as well. The seasons turn, winter's stillness giving way to spring's vibrant life, which matures into summer's heat, and then fades into autumn's release. Cities rise, buildings change, cultures evolve. Nothing, absolutely nothing, is static. Everything is a process, a dance of arising and passing away. So if this is the fundamental nature of reality, why do we suffer? The suffering doesn't come from the change itself. It comes from our resistance to it. It arises from the friction between our deep-seated craving for permanence and the undeniable reality of impermanence. We build our lives as if we are constructing a house of stone on the bank of this flowing river. And then we are shocked and devastated when the current inevitably erodes the foundation. We fall in love and want that initial, blissful feeling to last forever, unchanged. We achieve a success and want to cling to that peak moment. Afraid of the descent, we are in good health and live as if it is a permanent possession, not a temporary gift. We cling to youth, to pleasure, to moments of happiness, trying to freeze them in time. This clinging, this grasping for a solid footing where there is only a flowing river, is the very root of our anxiety and discontent. We are trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter we squeeze, the faster it slips through our fingers. The pain is not in the water. It is in the squeezing, the futile effort to make something fluid into something solid. We suffer because we demand that the flower never wilts, the sun never sets, and our loved ones never change. We are arguing with reality, and it is a debate we can never win. But here is the great, liberating secret. Impermanence is not a curse. It is the best news you could ever receive. It is the hidden grace within the structure of life. When you are in the depths of pain, whether it is the ache of a broken heart or the throbbing of a physical ailment, the wisdom of impermanence becomes a gentle, powerful mantra. This too shall pass. It does not invalidate your pain or dismiss it. It honors it, but reminds you that it is a visitor, not a permanent resident. The storm is real. The winds are strong, but no storm lasts forever. The sky will clear again. When you feel stuck, trapped in a dead-end job, a difficult relationship, or a cycle of negative thinking, impermanence is the key that unlocks the cage. The situation, by its very nature, cannot stay the same. Change is not just possible, it is inevitable. This understanding gives us hope, and it empowers us to become active agents in that change, to steer our lives in a new direction, knowing the currents are always moving. Most beautifully, impermanence is what makes all growth possible. If we were fixed entities, we could never learn, never heal, never become kinder, wiser, or more compassionate. You could never forgive or be forgiven. Transformation is the child of impermanence. It is the universe's promise that today does not have to be the same as yesterday. And tomorrow is a page not yet written. There is a story that illustrates this truth more powerfully than any philosophical explanation. It is the story of Kisa Gautami. She was a young woman who lived in the time of the Buddha, and her life was one of deep joy. For she had a beautiful baby son whom she adored more than anything in the world. But one day, tragedy struck. The child fell ill and died. Kisa Gautami was consumed by a grief so absolute, she could not accept it. She refused to believe her son was gone. Clinging to his small, lifeless body, she went from house to house, from person to person, desperately seeking a medicine that could bring him back to life. Some mocked her. Others pitied her, but no one could help. Finally, a wise man saw her profound despair and suggested she go see the Buddha. Carrying her son, she ran to the Enlightened One and begged him for a cure. The Buddha looked at her with immense compassion. He did not dismiss her plea. Instead, he said, "I can help you, but first, you must do one thing for me. Go into the village and bring me back a single mustard seed from a house where no one has ever died." Kisa Gautami's heart soared with hope. A mustard seed that was so simple. She immediately set off on her quest. She knocked on the first door. "I need a mustard seed for a medicine from the Buddha," she said. The family was happy to help. "Here, take all you need." As they handed it to her, she asked, "Has anyone in this house ever known death?" The family's faces fell. "Oh, yes," they said. "We lost our father just last year." With a heavy heart, Kisa Gautami returned the seed and went to the next house. The story was the same, and the next, and the next. She went to every single home in the village. One family had lost a child, another a parent, another a spouse, another a sibling. House after house, she heard stories of loss, of the pain of separation. The living were few, but the dead were many. As the sun began to set, Kisa Gautami sat by the side of the road, the body of her son still in her arms. She had not found her mustard seed, but she had found something else. She had found the truth. Her devastating, personal grief was not hers alone. It was a universal sorrow, a shared thread in the fabric of human existence. The law of death, of change, did not single her out. It was a law that applied to everyone, in every house, in every life. In that profound moment of understanding, her frantic clinging softened into a deep, sorrowful acceptance. She gently took her son to the charnel ground for his final rites. She then returned to the Buddha, not with a mustard seed, but with a mind prepared for wisdom. She had learned, in the most visceral way possible, the great lesson of impermanence. You do not need to suffer a tragedy like Kisa Gautami's to begin to practice with this wisdom. You can start right now. in the simplest moments of your day. When you drink a cup of tea, feel the warmth in your hands. Notice it. Appreciate it. And know that it is cooling with every passing second. This is not sad. It is just the nature of hot tea. When you see a beautiful flower in a garden, pause and truly look at it. Take in its color, its form, its fragrance, and know that its perfection is temporary. It will soon wilt and decay, returning to the earth to nourish new life. This understanding does not diminish its beauty. It enhances it, making this present moment of appreciation all the more precious. When a strong emotion arises, like anger or jealousy, try observing it, as Kisa Gotami observed the truth of the village. See it as a passing cloud, a temporary weather pattern in your mind. Feel its energy in your body without being swept away by its story. Acknowledge it, and know with certainty that it too will change. This practice, this gentle and consistent reminder of the fluid nature of reality, is not about becoming detached or cold. It is about becoming free. It is about learning to dance with the river of life, rather than trying to stop its flow. By beginning to accept this constant, graceful dance of change, we stop wasting our energy fighting an unwinnable war against reality. We begin to soften, to open, and to align ourselves with the way things are. This acceptance is a profound relief. It allows us to appreciate the good moments without desperately clinging to them, and to endure the difficult moments with the quiet confidence that they will not last forever. Having learned to see the transient nature of the world around us, we are now prepared to ask an even deeper question. If everything is changing, what about the I who is observing all this change? Is there a permanent, solid self at the center of it all? This question leads us directly to the next step on our journey, to an insight that is perhaps the most liberating of all the discovery of the empty self. We stand now at the edge of the great river of impermanence, having accepted that everything we perceive, from the stars in the heavens to the feelings in our hearts, is in a state of constant flow. This acceptance brings a certain peace, a release from the struggle of holding on, but it also begs a profound question. If everything is changing, what about the one who is witnessing this change? What about the I that feels, thinks, and experiences this transient world? Surely, this self must be the one fixed point, the solid ground in a universe of flux. We feel it so strongly, this sense of being a continuous self, an entity that was there yesterday and will be there tomorrow. So, with gentle curiosity, let us embark on an inner investigation, not to destroy anything, but simply to see what is truly there. Let us go in search of this self. Where would we find it? Perhaps it is the body. This certainly feels like me. My hands, my face, my heart beating in my chest. But as we have already seen, the body is a process, not a thing. It is a river of constantly changing cells, aging and renewing moment by moment. The body you have today is not the body you had as a child, nor is it the one you will have in old age. If the self were the body, then which version is the real you, the child, the teenager, the elder? The body is more like a home we inhabit for a time, a home whose walls and roof are constantly being repaired and replaced. It is a precious vehicle, but it is not the driver. So, if not the body, perhaps the self is our feelings. Surely, the joy, the sorrow, the love that I feel. This is the core of who I am. Yet, feelings are the most unreliable of candidates for a permanent self. They are like the weather, changing not just day to day, but moment to moment. 1 minute, a burst of happiness. The next, a pang of anxiety. To locate ourselves in a feeling would be to build our house on a cloud. It is there, and then it is gone. Replaced by another. We experience feelings, but we are not the feelings themselves. Well then, what about our thoughts? The inner narrator, the voice that plans, judges, and worries. This seems very close to the center of our being. Yet, if you sit quietly for even a few minutes, you will notice that thoughts are like wild birds, flying in and out of the mind's sky without your explicit command. A thought about work arises, then a memory from years ago, then a line from a song. Do you choose the next thought that will appear, or does it simply arise from a web of causes and conditions? Thoughts are events that happen within us. We can observe them, engage them, or let them go. But to say that we are these fleeting mental events is like saying the sky is the clouds that pass through it. The sky contains the clouds, but its own nature is vast, open, and unchanged by their passing. So we are left with our labels, our memories, our roles. Am I my name that is just a sound? A convention agreed upon by society. Am I my job that can change overnight? Am I a parent, a child, a friend? These are descriptions of relationships, functions we perform, not an essential, independent self. We peel away all these layers, the body, the feelings, the thoughts, the roles, like peeling an onion, searching for the solid core at the center. We peel and peel, and when we get to the very last layer, we find nothing, no core, no separate, solid, unchanging entity. At first, this discovery can feel unsettling, even frightening. It can sound like nihilism, like we are being told we don't exist. But this is a misunderstanding. The truth is far more liberating. The nothing we find is not a void of non-existence. It is the discovery of an open, boundless space, free from the constraints of a small, fixed identity. A beautiful and famous dialogue illustrates this perfectly. It is the story of the Buddhist sage Nagasena and the Greek king Melinda. The king, a sharp and logical thinker, approached Nagasena and asked his name. The sage replied that he was known as Nagasena, but this was only a designation, a name in common use. For in the ultimate sense, no permanent person or soul could be found. The king was baffled. He pointed to the elegant chariot that had brought Nagasena. If there is no person, the king challenged, then who is it that wears these robes and takes food? And what is this chariot? Is the chariot the pole? Is it the axle? Is it the wheels? The frame? The ropes? Or the yoke? Nagasena calmly replied no to each question. Then, the king declared triumphantly, I see no chariot, it is just a sound. A name Nagasena then gently turned the question back on the king. Your Majesty, he said, you have spoken well. The word chariot is just a convenient designation, a name given when all these parts are assembled in a certain way. It is a convention. In exactly the same way, the word Nagasena is a convenient designation for the collection of the body, the feelings, the perceptions, the mental formations, and consciousness. It is a name for a process, a combination of parts. In the ultimate sense, there is no static, independent self to be found here. The king, a wise man, understood the self is like the chariot. It's a useful name for a collection of interdependent, changing parts. But if you take it all apart, you cannot find a separate chariotness anywhere. So why is this good news? Because the fixed ego, this sense of a separate I, is an immense burden. It is a tiny, fragile fortress we spend our entire lives defending. We are in a constant state of anxiety, protecting its walls from criticism, polishing its image for others, and worrying about its future when someone criticizes us. It is this ego that feels wounded when we fail. It is this ego that feels diminished when we see others succeed. It is this ego that feels jealous. Releasing the belief in this solid self is like putting down the heaviest weight you have ever carried. When you see that the self is not a noun but a verb, a fluid, interconnected process, you take things less personally. Criticism is no longer an attack on the fortress, but simply information passing through. Failure is no longer a judgment on your core being, but a part of the learning process. This understanding fosters incredible resilience. If you think of yourself as a brittle statue, you live in constant fear of being cracked or broken. But if you see yourself as a flowing river, you are flexible, adaptable. You can meet obstacles and flow around them. You can merge with other streams and change course. Nothing can truly break you because there is no fixed thing to break. Furthermore, this realization dissolves the illusion of separation. The hard shell of the ego creates a false dichotomy of me versus the world. When that shell becomes transparent, we begin to feel our profound connection to everything else. We see that other people are not solid, separate entities either, but are also flowing processes, driven by the same hopes and fears. This is the very foundation of empathy. And this is not some abstract philosophy reserved for ancient sages. You can experience this directly through the practice of mindfulness. When you sit and observe your mind, you witness thoughts and feelings arising and passing away on their own. In the simple act of noticing a thought without getting lost in it, you create a space. In that space is a powerful realization. I am not this thought. I am the awareness that is aware of the thought. This awareness is like the sky, open, clear, and vast. The thoughts are merely clouds. You are the sky, not the cloud. You are not erasing the self. You are discovering that you are something much, much bigger than the small, constricted self you thought you were. The ego can then become what it was always meant to be, a useful tool for navigating the world. A conventional label like chariot or nagasena. But we are no longer tricked into believing that it is the entirety of who we are. This is the great liberation of anatta, of no self. It is not an annihilation, but an expansion. It is a letting go of the small, fearful, defensive self and an awakening to a more spacious, connected, and fearless way of being, when we are no longer so preoccupied with the project of me defending my territory, promoting my story, securing my status. The heart naturally and effortlessly opens outward. The contraction of the self gives way to the expansion of the heart, and it is in this newly opened space that we discover the boundless, healing qualities of true compassion. When the solid walls of the separate self become transparent, when we see through the illusion of a fixed and isolated I, we are not left in a cold, empty void. Instead, something miraculous occurs. In the open space created by that release, a natural warmth begins to radiate. It is a resonance, a deep and heartfelt vibration that feels the joy of another as our own joy, and the sorrow of another as our own sorrow. This is the spontaneous blooming of the heart. This is the awakening of compassion. In the Pali language, this profound quality is called karuna. It is the trembling of the heart in response to suffering, coupled with the sincere wish to see that suffering come to an end. It is the natural expression of our interconnectedness, the truth that we are not, and have never been, truly separate. It is crucial to understand that compassion is not the same as pity. Pity is a distant cousin, and often a condescending one. Pity looks down from above. It establishes a hierarchy. There is me, who is fortunate and okay. And there is you, the poor, unfortunate one. Pity creates separation. It says, "Oh, you poor thing." And in doing so, it reinforces the walls between us. Compassion, on the other hand, meets others on level ground. It is the recognition of our shared humanity. It looks at another's pain and says, "I see your suffering. I recognize this feeling. I have known this in my own heart. We are in this together." Its very root means to suffer with. Pity offers a tissue from a safe distance. Compassion offers a steady hand, a willingness to sit in the dark with another without needing to fix anything, but simply to be present. It is the understanding that your pain is my pain, because there is no fundamental wall between you and I. Before we can genuinely extend this quality to others, however, we must learn to offer it to the one person we so often neglect ourselves. For many of us, the most relentless and cruel critic we will ever face lives within our own mind. This inner voice is a harsh master, constantly pointing out our flaws, replaying our mistakes, and telling us we are not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy. We would never dream of speaking to a dear friend the way we often speak to ourselves. This is where the practice must begin. This is the practice of self-compassion. This is not self-pity, nor is it an excuse for harmful behavior. It is simply the application of kindness and understanding to our own human imperfection. It is the foundational act of treating ourselves with the same warmth and support we would offer to a loved one who is struggling. You cannot pour water from an empty cup. If our heart is a barren landscape of self-criticism, any compassion we try to offer others will be shallow. Or worse, it will become a way to escape our own inner pain by focusing on the problems of others. The practice can be very simple. The next time you feel the sting of failure, the shame of a mistake, or the harsh voice of your inner critic, just pause. You might place a hand over your heart, a simple gesture of warmth and connection, and then you offer yourself 3 simple acknowledgements. First, this is a moment of suffering. You name the experience with honesty and without drama. Second, suffering is a part of life. You connect your personal pain to the universal human experience, reminding yourself that you are not alone in your imperfection. And third, may I be kind to myself in this moment. You offer yourself a wish of goodwill, a moment of truce in the inner war. This simple practice begins to water the dry soil of the heart, creating a foundation of inner kindness, from which all genuine compassion for others can grow. The Buddha himself demonstrated the radical and active nature of compassion in a story that resonates through the ages. In a monastery, there lived a monk named Putigata Tissa. He was afflicted with a terrible disease that caused his body to break out in oozing, foul-smelling sores. His condition was so repulsive, and the stench so unbearable, that his fellow monks avoided him completely. He was left to lie alone in his own filth, his robes stuck to his festering skin, utterly abandoned in his misery. One day, the Buddha was walking through the monastery, his awareness open to everything. He came upon the dwelling of this sick monk and heard his pained groans. He entered and saw the man's desperate condition. The Buddha felt no disgust, no aversion. He felt only a great wave of compassion. He immediately went to the firehouse and began to heat a large pot of water. His disciple, Ananda, rushed to help. Together, they returned to the sick monk. The Buddha, the enlightened one, knelt down and with his own hands began to gently bathe Putagatatissa. He carefully washed the sores, cleaning away the pus and blood, and tenderly unstuck the soiled robes from the man's skin. He cleaned the monk's body, washed his dirty robes, and dressed him in a clean, fresh set. He and Ananda then lifted the monk and placed him gently on a clean bed, his body soothed and his heart overwhelmed with gratitude for this act of profound kindness from the one he revered most. The sick monk listened as the Buddha taught him the Dharma. In that moment, his physical suffering was eclipsed by a spiritual awakening, and he became enlightened. Afterward, the Buddha turned to the assembled monks and delivered a teaching that has become the very definition of compassionate action monks. You have no mother or father to care for you. If you do not care for one another, who else will? Whoever would tend to the sick and the suffering is in truth tending to me. This powerful story shows us that compassion is not a passive feeling, but an active force. And like any strength, it can be cultivated. We can train our heart to open in ever-widening circles. You begin with someone easy, a person, or even a pet that you love unconditionally. Bring them to mind, picture them clearly, and extend the sincere wish. May you be free from your suffering. May you be at peace. Feel that warmth in your own chest. Then, you turn that same wish toward yourself. May I be free from my suffering. May I be at peace. Once you are comfortable there, you expand the circle to include a neutral person, the clerk at the store, the person who delivers your mail. You know nothing of their life, but you know that they, too, have struggles. You extend the same wish to them. Finally, the most transformative practice of all, you extend the circle of compassion to include a difficult person, someone who has caused you pain. This is not about condoning their actions or forcing forgiveness. It is a profound practice for your own heart. You recognize that their harmful actions almost certainly spring from their own deep well of suffering, their own ignorance, their own pain, and so you extend the wish. May you be free from the suffering that causes you to act in this way. May you too find peace. In doing this, you are not freeing them. You are freeing yourself from the toxic prison of anger and resentment. Never mistake this practice for weakness. Indifference is weak. Aversion is weak. They are strategies of a fearful heart, turning away from the reality of pain. Compassion is the ultimate courage. It is the strength to keep your heart open in the presence of suffering. It is the bravery to walk into the dark places, both within yourself and with others, and to simply be present with what is there. It is the fierce tenderness of a mother bear protecting her cubs. It is the unwavering stability of a mountain that can hold all the world's weather. It is the strength that allowed the Buddha to kneel and wash the sores of a forgotten man. Compassion melts the ice of the ego and dissolves the illusion of our separateness. And as this warmth spreads through us, it naturally gives rise to its beautiful, radiant twin. For alongside the wish for all beings to be free from suffering, there arises an equally powerful aspiration, the wish for all beings to be happy. This is the practice of loving kindness, as the boundless space of compassion opens within us. The gentle wish for all beings to be free from suffering, we discover it has a radiant twin. This twin quality does not focus on the presence of pain, but on the cultivation of joy. If compassion is the heart's ability to sit tenderly with sorrow, this is the heart's ability to actively radiate happiness. This is metta, a word often translated as loving kindness. It is the sincere, unconditional wish for all beings, without exception, to be happy and well. It is not a passive sentiment, but a dynamic force, an inner sun that we can learn to nurture until its light fills every corner of our being and shines outward into the world. It is the most profound antidote to fear, anger, and isolation, a practice that systematically dismantles the barriers that keep us feeling small and separate. Metta is fundamentally different from the kinds of love we usually talk about. It is not the possessive, conditional love of romance, which so often says, "I will love you if you meet my needs." It is not the transactional affection of a business partnership, nor the clannish love reserved only for our own family or tribe. Metta is a universal, unbiased benevolence. Its perfect symbol is the sun in the sky. The sun does not choose who to shine upon. It pours its light and warmth down on the beautiful flower and the thorny weed, on the saint and the sinner, on the friend and the enemy. It shines without asking for anything in return. It simply gives. To practice metta is to cultivate this same quality in our own heart, a steady, radiant goodwill that wishes everyone well. Simply because they exist, you practice not because others deserve it, but because your own heart deserves to be free from the poisons of hatred, judgment, and indifference. It is a gift you give to the world, but the first person to receive its benefit is always yourself. The cultivation of loving kindness, or metta bhavana, is a beautiful and systematic form of heart training. It's a meditation that you can practice anywhere, anytime. You begin by finding a comfortable posture, closing your eyes, and bringing a gentle attention to the area around your heart. To awaken the feeling of metta, you might start by thinking of someone for whom you feel a very simple, uncomplicated love, perhaps a beloved pet, a cherished child, or a dear friend. Picture them smiling and happy. Allow the natural feeling of warmth and kindness that arises to fill your chest. This feeling, this gentle, glowing warmth, is metta. This is the energy we will work with. Now, in what is often the most challenging but most essential step, you learn to direct that feeling toward yourself. For so many of us, this feels awkward or even impossible at first, conditioned as we are to focus on our own flaws. But be patient. With this warmth in your heart, you silently offer a few phrases of well-wishing to yourself. The classic phrases are like a gentle, loving mantra. May I be safe. May I be healthy and strong. May I be happy. May I live with ease. You repeat these phrases slowly, gently, letting the intention behind them sink in. It doesn't matter if you believe them fully at first. The purpose is to plant the seeds. With repetition, they will grow. You are learning to become your own best friend, Once you have established a foundation of kindness for yourself, you begin to expand the circle. First, you bring to mind that beloved person you started with. Holding their image in your mind, you extend the phrases to them. May you be safe. May you be healthy and strong. May you be happy. May you live with ease. Feel your heart extending this genuine wish for their well-being. Next, you expand the circle to include a neutral person. This might be a cashier you saw this morning, a neighbor you nod to, or someone you pass on the street. This practice is designed to break down the walls of indifference that separate us from most of humanity. You recognize that this person, just like you, wishes to be happy, and so you offer them the same phrases. May you be safe. May you be happy. Then comes the great test, and the great healer. You bring to mind a difficult person, someone with whom you have conflict or for whom you feel resentment. This is not about condoning their actions or forcing yourself to like them. It is about recognizing that clinging to anger and hatred only harms one person, you. It is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So, for the sake of your own freedom, you extend the phrases of metta to them. It may feel mechanical or even impossible at first, but you try. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be free from the suffering that causes you to act in harmful ways. This practice has the power to dissolve the hardest knots of resentment in your heart. Finally, you let the circle become boundless. You radiate this feeling of loving kindness in all directions: front, back, left, right, above, and below. You extend it to all beings in your city, your country, and the world, to friends, strangers, and enemies alike, to humans and animals, to beings in the sky, on the earth, and in the water. You hold the entire world in your heart and bathe it in the simple, powerful wish: may all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be happy. May all beings live with ease. In this moment, you dissolve the illusion of a separate self and connect with the vast, warm heart of the universe. This is more than just a pleasant spiritual exercise. It is a profound psychological and neurological training. Neuroscientists have studied long-term practitioners of this meditation and found that it literally changes the brain, strengthening neural circuits associated with empathy, positive emotions, and emotional regulation. You are building the muscle of kindness. You cannot simultaneously feel genuine loving kindness and bitter hatred. One purges the other. Metta is the direct antidote to anger, jealousy, and fear. It is the ultimate cure for the epidemic of loneliness that plagues our modern world, replacing the feeling of isolation with a deep and abiding sense of connection. The protective power of metta is beautifully illustrated in a classic Buddhist story. A group of monks were instructed by the Buddha to go to a wild, remote part of the forest to meditate. The forest, however, was said to be inhabited by powerful tree spirits who were not pleased with this intrusion. As the monks began to meditate, the spirits unleashed a campaign of terror. They created horrible, frightening apparitions, made terrifying, blood-curdling noises, and generated foul, sickening smells. The monks were overcome with fear. Their concentration was shattered, and they fled the forest, returning to the Buddha in a state of panic. When they explained what had happened, the Buddha did not offer them a different, safer place to practice. He did not give them a protective charm or a magic spell. He gave them a different kind of weapon, a different kind of shield. He taught them the Karaniya Metta Sutta, the discourse on loving kindness, and instructed them to go back to the very same forest. This time, he told them they were to continuously recite these words and radiate unconditional goodwill to all beings. So, the monks returned. As they walked back into the woods, their hearts were no longer filled with fear, but with a powerful, radiant love. They sent wishes of safety and happiness to all beings, explicitly including the spirits of the forest. The effect was transformative. The hostile spirits felt this wave of pure, selfless benevolence washing over them. It was a feeling they had never known. Their anger and hostility simply melted away in the face of such immense kindness. They not only stopped their campaign of terror, but they became silent protectors of the meditating monks. The terrifying forest was transformed into a place of profound peace and safety. The lesson was clear. The greatest protection we can ever have is not a thicker wall or a sharper sword. It is a heart that is completely open and filled with love. This is the unconquerable shield. To practice loving kindness is to choose, again and again, to be a source of warmth in a world that can often feel cold. It is to tend to the garden of your own heart, pulling out the weeds of resentment and planting the seeds of goodwill. It is a declaration of hope, a commitment to becoming a force for healing and happiness. And when our hearts are established in this radiant warmth of compassion and loving kindness, these qualities naturally begin to express themselves in our every interaction. They change the way we see, the way we act, and most immediately, the way we speak. The journey of the open heart now flows directly into the world, through the gateway of our words. When the heart begins to open, saturated with the warmth of loving kindness and the deep resonance of compassion, it cannot remain a secret. This inner transformation inevitably seeks expression, and its most immediate and powerful outlet is through our words. Speech is the bridge between our inner world and the outer world. It is the tool with which we build relationships or tear them down, the instrument we use to heal or to wound. Every word we utter is a form of karma, an action that sends ripples out into the universe, shaping our reality and the reality of those around us. Therefore, learning to use this tool with wisdom, mindfulness, and care is not a trivial matter. It is a profound spiritual practice. This is the practice of what the Buddha called samavaka, or right speech, a vital part of the path to liberation. This is not a set of rigid commandments designed to stifle self-expression. Rather, it is a mindful and compassionate inquiry, a set of filters we can learn to apply to our communication so that our words become a source of peace and connection, rather than conflict and suffering. Think of it as 4 gentle gateways that every intention to speak must pass through before it becomes a word. Before you speak, you pause, just for a moment, and you ask your heart, is it true? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? And is this the right time to say it? The first gateway is truthfulness. This seems straightforward, but it goes deeper than simply not telling lies. It means speaking with integrity. It means resisting the temptation to exaggerate to make a story more exciting, or to distort facts to make ourselves look better. It means being precise in our language and honest about what we know and what we don't know, rather than presenting opinions as facts. In a world saturated with misinformation and gossip, committing to truthfulness is a radical act. It becomes the bedrock upon which trust is built. When people know that your words are reliable, they feel safe with you. Your presence becomes a sanctuary of authenticity. But truth alone is not enough. This is where the practice becomes exquisitely subtle and profoundly compassionate. A statement can be 100% true, but also be brutal, destructive, and utterly unskillful. This brings us to the second gateway. Is it kind? This is where the heart's intention is weighed. Is the purpose of this true statement to help or to hurt? Is it intended to build up or to tear down? We can wield truth like a club, using it to win arguments, assert our superiority, or punish someone, or we can offer it with tenderness, wrapped in the genuine wish to not cause harm. This requires us to consider the impact of our words on the feelings of another. The same truth can be delivered with harshness that wounds deeply, or with a gentleness that allows it to be received. Even if a statement is both true and kind, there is a third gateway to pass. Is it beneficial? Is it necessary? So much of our daily speech, if we are honest, is simply noise. It's idle gossip, pointless complaining, speculation, or chatter that serves no real purpose other than to fill silence. This third filter invites us to become an editor of our own speech. Does what I am about to say lead to harmony or to division? Does it bring clarity or confusion? Does it inspire peace or stir up agitation? If our words do not serve a wholesome purpose for ourselves or for others, perhaps the most skillful action is to embrace what is known as noble silence. We learn that not every thought needs to be voiced. This isn't about being cold or withdrawn. It's about conserving our energy for speech that truly matters. Speech that heals, clarifies, and connects. Finally, there is the fourth gateway, the mark of true mastery in communication. Is this the right time? A statement may be true, kind, and beneficial, but if spoken at the wrong moment, it can be completely ineffective or even damaging. Offering constructive criticism when someone is already grieving or overwhelmed is not helpful. Bringing up a difficult topic when someone is exhausted or rushed is not skillful. This requires a deep sensitivity, an ability to read the emotional atmosphere, and a willingness to wait. It means setting aside our own agenda and our own urgency to speak, and instead attuning ourselves to the receptivity of the other person. The great power of this practice is illustrated in a story about the Buddha. A man came to him, brimming with indignation, and said that he needed to tell him something terrible about one of his monks. The Buddha listened calmly and then asked the man, "Before you speak, tell me, have you filtered what you are about to say?" The man was confused. The Buddha explained, "The first filter is truth. Are you absolutely certain that what you are about to tell me is true?" The man hesitated. "Well," he said, "I heard it from someone, so I'm not completely certain." The Buddha nodded. "All right. Now the second filter, kindness. Is what you are about to say something kind?" The man winced. "No, not at all. It is quite the opposite." The Buddha remained serene. "And the third filter, benefit. Will telling me this information be of any benefit to you, to me, or to the monk in question?" The man looked down at his feet. "No, probably not." The Buddha then concluded, "So, if what you want to say is not certainly true, not kind, and not beneficial, why say it at all?" This ancient wisdom gives us a powerful framework for purifying our communication. It helps us avoid the four main types of harmful speech: lying, which destroys trust; slanderous or divisive speech, which turns people against one another; harsh or abusive speech, which wounds the heart; and idle chatter, which dissipates our precious mental energy. But mindful communication is not just about what we say. It is equally, if not more so, about how we listen. In our typical conversations, we are rarely truly listening. We are waiting for our turn to speak. We are formulating our rebuttal, our witty comeback, our next story. Our mind is busy with our own agenda. This is not listening, this is reloading. Deep, mindful listening is a completely different act. It is a gift of pure presence. It means setting aside our own internal chatter and offering the other person the full, open, non-judgmental space of our attention. We listen not just to the words, but to the feelings behind the words. We listen to the silences, to what is not being said. We listen with our whole body, with our whole heart, without the need to interrupt, to fix, or to advise unless asked. To be truly heard is a rare and profound healing experience. To give someone the gift of our deep listening is one of the most generous and compassionate acts we can perform. Sometimes, the most compassionate form of communication is silence, not a cold, punishing silence, but a warm, spacious, noble silence. It is the silence that allows another person the space to find their own clarity without being crowded by our opinions. It is the silence that refuses to add fuel to the fire of an argument. It is the silence of simply being with someone in their pain, communicating through presence alone. A presence that says, "I am here. You are not alone," more powerfully than any words ever could. By practicing right speech, we do more than just improve our relationships. We transform our own mind. We become more peaceful, more honest, more kind every time we choose a skillful word over an unskillful one. We are planting a seed of good karma, creating the causes and conditions for future happiness. Speech is a powerful form of action, a constant opportunity to practice mindfulness and compassion. And as we bring this awareness to our words, it naturally begins to infuse everything else we do. Our words are just one expression of our inner state. Now, we must turn our attention to the vast and varied landscape of all our other actions, learning to make our entire life a seamless expression of this awakened heart. Having steeped our hearts in compassion and learned to guard the gateway of our speech with kindness and truth, we arrive at the vast landscape of our daily life. For if our spiritual practice is confined only to a meditation cushion or a few moments of quiet reflection, it remains a beautiful but isolated hobby. The true goal is to dissolve the wall between our meditation time and our real life. To understand that the 20 minutes we spend in silence is merely the training ground for the other 23 hours and 40 minutes of the day. The real practice is not to escape from life, but to infuse it in its entirety with the quality of mindful attention. This is the practice of right action and right livelihood. The art of turning every single act, from the most mundane to the most significant, into a living, breathing meditation. We have been conditioned to believe that some activities are important and others are trivial chores to be rushed through. We compartmentalize our existence. There is work time, family time, and chore time, and within these blocks of time, our mind is rarely where our body is. When we are washing the dishes, we are thinking about the email we have to send. When we are sending the email, we are worrying about the conversation we need to have. When we are in the conversation, our mind is already planning dinner. We live in a state of perpetual fragmentation. Our body in one place, our mind in another. This division is a fundamental source of our stress and dissatisfaction. Mindful action is the remedy. It is the simple, radical act of bringing your mind home to your body, of uniting your awareness with your action, so that you are fully present for whatever you are doing. Let's take one of the most common and most frequently rushed activities of our day, eating. For many of us, a meal is something to be consumed as quickly as possible, often while scrolling on a phone, watching a screen, or driving a car. We barely taste the food. We barely notice we are full until we are uncomfortable. To transform this, try, just for one meal, the practice of mindful eating. Before you take the first bite, pause. Look at the food on your plate. See the different colors, the shapes, the textures. Take a moment to smell the aromas. Then, reflect for a moment on the incredible journey this food has taken to reach you. Contemplate the sun, the rain, and the soil that grew it. Think of the farmer who planted the seed, the driver who transported the produce, the person who prepared the meal. Your plate is connected to a vast, intricate web of life and effort. Allow a feeling of gratitude to arise for this nourishment. Now, take the first bite, but instead of immediately preparing the next one, put your fork down. Just chew. Chew slowly. Notice the explosion of different tastes on your tongue: sweet, salty, sour, savory. Feel the texture of the food. Pay attention to the simple, miraculous act of chewing and swallowing. Be fully present with the entire experience. When you eat this way, a simple meal is transformed from a mindless refueling into a rich and sacred ceremony. You are not just consuming calories, you are participating in the web of life. You are truly nourishing your body and your mind. This same principle can be applied to anything. Take washing the dishes, a chore most of us despise. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh spoke beautifully about this. He said that while you are washing the dishes must be the most important thing in your life. You are not rushing through them to get to the dessert or the cup of tea that follows. If you cannot be happy while washing the dishes, you will not be happy while drinking your tea. You will be thinking about what is next. You will wash the teacup away with your anxieties. The practice is to be fully present with the task at hand. Feel the warmth of the water on your skin. See the soap bubbles shimmering with light. Hear the sound of the plate being rinsed clean. You treat each bowl as if it were the baby Buddha himself. You were bathing. In that moment of complete presence, the chore is no longer a chore. It is a moment of peace, a moment of life. The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on this green earth and to find the sacred in the so-called profane. This mindful awareness can then extend to the entire canvas of our professional life. This is the practice of right livelihood, or Shamma Aiva. On the most basic level, this means choosing work that does not intentionally cause harm to oneself or to other living beings. The ancient texts advise against livelihoods based on weapons, poison, intoxicants, or the exploitation of others. In our modern world, this invites us to reflect deeply on the impact of our work. Does it contribute to the well-being of society and the planet? Or does it deplete them? Does it align with our deepest values? But right livelihood is more than just the job title we hold. Even if we find ourselves in work that is not our ideal, we can still practice. It is about the how, not just the what. It is about bringing integrity, diligence, and kindness into whatever we do. It's about treating our colleagues with respect, performing our tasks with a focused mind, and understanding how our small role contributes to a larger whole. Whether you are a teacher shaping young minds, a sanitation worker keeping a city healthy, an artist creating beauty, or an administrator organizing data, you can choose to bring your whole self to the task. You can infuse your work with a quality of presence and care that transforms it from a mere job into a meaningful practice. When we begin to live this way, something extraordinary happens. The separation between the doer and the doing begins to dissolve. When you are fully absorbed in washing a dish, there is no longer a sense of a stressed-out me who is doing this chore. There is just the unified experience of washing. When you are deeply engaged in writing a report, listening to a colleague, or planting a garden, you enter a state of flow. In these moments, the chattering, anxious ego recedes, and there is just pure, present moment awareness expressing itself through action. This is the end of fragmentation. This is wholeness. This is how our entire life becomes a seamless meditation. We don't need to retreat to a cave or a monastery to find peace. Peace is available right here, in the heart of our ordinary human life. In each mindful action, by bringing this quality of wakeful attention to our every move, we are no longer living on autopilot. We are consciously participating in our life, moment by moment, and as we act with this newfound presence, we cannot help but notice the results of our actions. We see, with ever-increasing clarity, how a kind action produces a feeling of warmth, and how a rushed, angry action produces a feeling of agitation. We begin to perceive the intricate and unfailing law of cause and effect that governs our existence. This direct, experiential understanding of how our actions shape our world leads us directly to our next exploration, a deep and practical look at the true meaning of karma. As we learn to infuse our daily life with mindful action, we begin to notice a pattern, a truth so consistent and reliable that it functions like a law of nature. We see that when we act from a place of kindness and presence, the result is a feeling of inner peace and connection. When we act from a place of distraction, anger, or greed, the result is agitation and suffering. This direct observation of cause and effect is our entry point into understanding one of the most profound and perhaps most misunderstood concepts in Eastern philosophy, the law of karma. For many in the West, the word karma conjures images of a cosmic scoring system, a supernatural judge dispensing rewards and punishments, or a rigid, inescapable fate. But these are distortions. The original teaching on karma is far more practical, psychological, and ultimately far more empowering. Karma is not fate. It is not predestination. It is not a punishment for past sins handed down by an external power. The word karma, in the ancient Pali language, literally means action. That is all. The law of karma is simply the law of action, the universal principle of cause and effect. It is a natural law, as impersonal and reliable as the law of gravity. If you release an apple from your hand, it will fall to the ground. That is gravity. It is not a punishment for letting go of the apple. In the same way, if you perform an action motivated by greed, hatred, or delusion, the result will be suffering. If you perform an action motivated by generosity, love, or wisdom, the result will be happiness and peace. It is not a reward. It is simply the natural unfolding of a cause into its effect. Like planting a mango seed and getting a mango tree. not a thorny bush. The true genius and subtlety of this teaching, however, lies in where it locates the heart of the action. The Buddha declared, in a revolutionary statement, "It is intention, monks, that I call karma, having intended. One acts through body, speech, and mind. This is the key. The most critical factor is not the physical action itself, but the mental state, the volition, the intention behind the action. This shifts the entire focus from an external, behavioral model to an internal, psychological one. Consider this. If you are walking and accidentally step on an insect, that is one kind of action. If you see an insect and, with a mind filled with malice, deliberately crush it, the physical act is similar, but the intention is vastly different. The second act plants a far more poisonous seed in your own mind, a seed of cruelty that will inevitably ripen into a painful experience for you. The first was an accident. The second was a poisoning of your own consciousness. This means that you are creating karma in every single moment. With every thought that you entertain, the mind is the forerunner of all things. The world you experience is a reflection of the mind that is experiencing it. If you cultivate a mind filled with thoughts of resentment, judgment, and ill will, you are creating a painful, prison-like world for yourself. You will naturally speak and act in ways that create conflict and isolation. If you cultivate a mind filled with thoughts of loving kindness, forgiveness, and generosity, you are creating a beautiful, spacious world to inhabit. Your speech and actions will naturally lead to harmony and connection. Karma is the process by which we create ourselves and our world from the inside out. So what about our past? It is true that we are the heirs to our past, karma. The Buddha taught, we are the owners of our actions, heir to our actions, born of our actions, related to our actions, and live supported by our actions. We all arrive in this present moment carrying the results of countless past actions from this life and previous ones. This karmic inheritance helps to explain the vast differences in our circumstances, talents, and temperaments. And this is the most liberating message of hope. We are not prisoners of our past. The past influences us, but it does not define us. For in this very moment, right now, you are not just the heir to old karma, you are the creator of new karma. You are the captain of your own ship. The past may have created the currents and weather you are sailing in today, but in every moment, you have your hand on the tiller, choosing your direction. Your freedom lies in your ability to respond to your present circumstances with wisdom and kindness, regardless of what caused them. There is no story that illustrates this power of transformation more dramatically than that of Angulimala. His name literally meant finger garland, for he was a terrifying serial killer who terrorized the countryside, murdering people and collecting one of their fingers to add to the gruesome necklace he wore. He was a man drowning in an ocean of the most horrific karma imaginable. One day, the Buddha, against all advice, calmly walked into the forest where Angulimala lived. Seeing him, Angulimala grabbed his sword and began to run after him. But a strange thing happened. Though the Buddha was only walking at a normal pace, Angulimala, running with all his might, could not catch up, exhausted and bewildered. He screamed out, "Stop!" Contemplative stopped the Buddha. Without turning, replied in a calm, clear voice, "I have stopped. Angulimala, it is you who have not stopped." Angulimala was stunned. "What do you mean?" he demanded. The Buddha explained, "I have stopped forever from doing violence to any living being. I have laid down the sword. You are the one who is still running, driven by the relentless cycle of hatred and violence." These words struck Angulimala like a bolt of lightning. In an instant, he saw the madness of his life and the profound peace of the man before him. He threw down his sword, bowed at the Buddha's feet, and asked to become a monk. Through immense effort and dedicated practice, Angulimala completely purified his mind. He became an arahant, a fully enlightened being, his heart filled with boundless love and compassion. His past was not erased when he went on his alms round. People who remembered his terrifying past would sometimes throw rocks and sticks at him, and he bore these physical results of his old karma with patient endurance. But his inner state was one of unshakable peace. He was no longer the murderer Angulimala, he was a sage. His story is the ultimate proof that no one is defined by their past. No matter how much negative karma we have accumulated, the power of present moment intention and mindful action is great enough to change our trajectory completely. It is the universe's ultimate promise of hope and redemption. So how do we actively change our karma? We do it by taking our destiny into our own hands. We use mindfulness to become aware of our intentions before they translate into action. When a negative thought or a harmful intention arises, we learn to see it clearly, acknowledge it without judgment, and gently let it go without acting on it. And we actively, deliberately, cultivate wholesome states of mind. We practice generosity, we practice patience, we practice loving kindness. This is like being a conscious gardener of the mind. We stop watering the weeds of hatred, greed, and delusion, and we diligently water the beautiful flowers of love, clarity, and compassion. Over time, the garden of our mind is transformed, and so too is the world we experience. Karma, then, is not a doctrine of fear, but the ultimate teaching of empowerment. It tells you that you are not a helpless victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your own life. The key to your happiness and your freedom is not in some holy book or in the hands of some external savior. It has been in your own hands and in your own heart all along. As we become more sensitive to this law, we start to notice the specific energies that create the most suffering, and few are more powerful, more destructive, and more common than the fiery energy of anger. Learning to face this powerful force with wisdom is a crucial skill for anyone on the path to peace. As we become the conscious gardeners of our mind, diligently observing the law of karma, we quickly notice that certain seeds have a particularly fiery, fast-growing, and destructive nature. Among the most powerful of these is anger. Anger is a fire. Left unchecked, it can burn down the entire forest of our peace, devastating our relationships and consuming our own hearts in its blaze. In our culture, we are generally taught two unskillful ways to deal with this fire. The first is suppression. We deny its existence. We push it down. We pretend we are not angry. This is like trying to bury hot coals. They smolder beneath the surface, poisoning our inner soil and eventually erupting in unexpected ways, often as depression or passive aggression. The second is unrestrained expression. We identify completely with the anger and unleash it upon the world, using harsh words and aggressive actions. This is like throwing the burning coals at others, causing immense harm and creating endless cycles of retaliation and regret. The path of wisdom offers a third way, a middle path that is neither suppression nor explosion. It is the path of mindful transformation. The first step is to change our entire relationship with anger. Instead of seeing it as an enemy to be vanquished or a flaw to be ashamed of, we can learn to see it as a messenger, albeit a very loud and uncomfortable one. The Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught us to treat our anger like a crying baby. When a baby cries, you don't ignore it or yell at it to shut up. That would be cruel and foolish. A good parent gently picks the baby up, holds it, and tries to understand what is wrong. Is the baby hungry? Is it in pain? Is it scared? We must learn to become a good parent to our own anger. When the fire of anger arises, our practice is to say, "Hello, my anger. I see that you are here. I will take good care of you." We don't act it out, but we also don't push it away. We invite it in. We offer it the tea of our mindful attention, and we listen deeply to the message it is carrying. And what is that message? Anger is almost always a secondary emotion. It is a loud, protective shield thrown up to guard something much more vulnerable and tender underneath. When you feel the heat of anger, the practice is to look beneath its surface with gentle curiosity. Ask yourself, what is this anger defending? Very often, you will find a deep sense of hurt. You feel misunderstood, betrayed, or treated unjustly. Your anger is a cry of "that's not fair" sometimes. Beneath the anger, you will find fear. You are afraid of losing control, of losing someone you love, of being seen as weak or incompetent. Your anger is a preemptive strike, a way to push away a perceived threat. And frequently, you will find a frustrated desire or an unmet expectation. You wanted things to be a certain way, and reality has not complied. Your anger is the friction of your will grinding against the will of the world. By identifying this softer, more vulnerable root, our relationship with the anger changes. It is no longer a monstrous intruder, but a misguided guardian, a smoke alarm warning us that a tender part of our heart needs our attention. This understanding then informs our practice in the moment the fire begins to burn. The first step is simply to recognize and acknowledge its presence. Without judgment, the energy of anger is arising in me. That's it. No need to condemn yourself for feeling it. The second and most crucial step is to immediately bring your awareness out of the story, in your head, the story of who did what and why they were wrong, and into the physical sensations in your body. Where do you feel the anger? Is it a tightening in your chest, a clenching in your jaw, a burning heat in your face and neck, a knot in your stomach? Anchor your attention in these raw, physical energies. Just notice them as pure sensation. The third step is to breathe. You use your breath as an instrument of compassion. You gently breathe into the areas of tension, as if you are cradling those knots of energy with the softness of your breath. You are not trying to force the feeling to go away. You are simply holding it, embracing it, soothing it with your mindful presence. This creates a vital space, a buffer zone between the feeling of anger and the impulse to react. You are holding the crying baby. The power of this non-reaction is perfectly captured in a story from the life of the Buddha. One day, a man came before him and began to shout a long stream of insults and abuse. He cursed the Buddha, his teachings, and his followers with tremendous rage. The Buddha did not respond. He did not argue or defend himself. He simply sat in serene silence, listening with a calm and open presence, as if he were listening to the sound of the rain. Finally, the man ran out of energy and fell silent. exhausted and confused by the lack of reaction. The Buddha then spoke, his voice gentle and clear. "My friend," he asked, "if you prepare a delicious meal as a gift for someone, but that person politely declines to accept your gift, to whom does the meal belong?" The man, taken aback, replied, "Well, it would still belong to me, the one who offered it." The Buddha smiled softly. "Exactly so," he said. "Today, you have offered me a gift of anger and insults. I have politely declined to accept it." The man was left speechless. He realized he was the only one being burned by the hot coal he had been trying to throw. This story reveals the ultimate tool for transforming anger wisdom, infused with compassion. After we have used our mindfulness and our breath to soothe the initial, fiery intensity of the anger, we can begin to look deeply. We can use our wisdom to investigate the situation, particularly the person who we perceive as the source of our anger, and the truth we will always find, if we look deeply enough, is that the person who has hurt us is themselves suffering. Happy, peaceful, and contented people do not go around spreading anger and causing harm. Their lashing out is a symptom of their own inner turmoil, their own fear, their own pain. Their anger is a cry for help. When we can see this, when we can see the suffering behind their unskillful actions, our heart naturally softens. Our perspective shifts from a place of personal injury. "How could you do this to me?" to a place of compassionate inquiry. "What must you be going through to be acting this way?" This does not mean we condone their behavior or allow ourselves to be mistreated. We can still set firm, clear boundaries, but we do so from a place of clarity and compassion, not from a place of reactive hatred. This compassion is the cool water that truly extinguishes the flames of our own anger and resentment, freeing us from the cycle of retaliation. Anger is no longer an enemy to be fought. It becomes a teacher. It teaches us where we are most vulnerable. It points to the parts of ourselves that need healing, and it becomes a powerful opportunity to practice the deepest compassion for ourselves and for others. And just as we can learn to meet this hot, explosive energy of anger, we can also apply this wisdom to its close cousin, the cold, contracting energy of fear and anxiety, which so often haunts our days and nights. Just as we learn to meet the hot, explosive energy of anger, we must also learn to work with its cool, contracting twin, the pervasive state of anxiety. If anger is a fire that burns with the injustices of the past and present, anxiety is a chilling fog that seeps into the future. It is the mind's painful habit of time traveling into a tomorrow that does not yet exist, and populating that future with endless ghosts and imagined catastrophes. It is the mental state of what if? What if I fail? What if I get sick? What if they leave me? What if something terrible happens? To be anxious is to live in a constant state of rehearsal for a tragedy that will likely never occur. It is a profound disconnection from the power and the reality of the only moment we ever truly have, the present moment. The antidote to anxiety, therefore, is not to think our way out of it. We cannot solve the mind's fictional stories with more thinking. The antidote is to come home to our body, to our senses, to the tangible reality of the here and now. When you feel the familiar grip of anxiety begin to tighten the racing heart, the shallow breath, the churning stomach, the practice is to gently but firmly anchor your awareness in the present. The simplest and most powerful anchor is your own breath. Your breath is never in the future. It is always, unfailingly, now. You can place your attention on the feeling of the air entering your nostrils, cool and fresh, and the feeling of the air leaving your body, slightly warmer. You can consciously lengthen your exhalation, which sends a direct signal to your nervous system that it is safe to relax. With each conscious breath, you are pulling your scattered mind back from the imaginary future and grounding it in the living present. You can also use the anchor of your body. Feel the weight of your body on the chair or the bed. Feel the solid contact of the soles of your feet on the floor. Press your feet down gently and feel the firmness of the earth beneath you. This simple act of feeling your physical connection to the ground can provide an immediate sense of stability and security. From there, you can expand your awareness to your other senses, pulling your mind out of abstract thought and into direct experience. You can try a simple exercise. Name 5 things you can see right now. The color of the wall, the light from a lamp, the pattern on a rug. Then, name 4 things you can feel: the texture of your clothing, the warmth of your skin, the smooth surface of a table. Then, 3 things you can hear: the distant sound of traffic, the hum of a refrigerator, the sound of your own breathing. This practice acts like an emergency brake for a mind spinning out of control. It yanks you out of the terrifying what-ifs and plants you firmly in the simple reality of what is. This is the first aid, but the deeper, more transformative practice is to address the very root of anxiety, which is our desperate craving for certainty and our profound resistance to the true nature of life. The truth is, life is uncertain. We want guarantees. We want to know for sure that we will be safe, that our loved ones will be healthy, that our plans will succeed. But such guarantees do not exist. Change, unpredictability, and mystery are woven into the very fabric of existence. Anxiety is the friction created when our desire for a fixed, predictable world grinds against the fluid, unpredictable reality of life. The more we fight uncertainty, the more anxious we become. The wisdom practice, then, is to learn to befriend uncertainty. It is to change our fundamental posture from one of resistance to one of acceptance and flow. Imagine trying to command the ocean. You stand on the shore, demanding that the waves stop, that the tide never changes. This is an exhausting and utterly futile battle that will only lead to frustration and despair. A wise surfer does not try to control the ocean. A wise surfer accepts the power and unpredictability of the waves. They learn to balance, to adapt, to be flexible, and to ride the energy of the waves as they come. We must learn to become surfers on the ocean of uncertainty. We learn to balance in the present moment, to trust in our ability to respond to whatever arises, rather than trying to control what will arise. There is a timeless Taoist story that perfectly illustrates the folly of our anxious prejudgments. It is the story of a wise old farmer. One day, his only horse, which he needed for plowing, ran away. His neighbors all came to console him. "Oh, what terrible luck," they said. The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returned, and it brought with it a herd of 12 wild horses. The neighbors gathered again, this time to celebrate. "What incredible good fortune," they exclaimed. The farmer calmly replied, "Maybe." The next day, the farmer's son was trying to tame one of the wild horses when he was thrown off, and his leg was badly broken. The neighbors came once more, shaking their heads. "How awful. Your son, your only help, is now crippled. This is truly bad luck. The farmer looked at his son's leg and said, "Maybe." A week later, the emperor's army came through the village, conscripting every able-bodied young man for a war from which few would return. They saw the farmer's son with his broken leg, and they passed him by. The wisdom of the farmer lies in his understanding that we live within a vast and intricate web of causes and effects, and our perspective is incredibly limited. We cannot possibly know the ultimate outcome of any single event. What appears to be a disaster today might be the seed of a great blessing tomorrow. What looks like a stroke of luck might lead to unforeseen difficulties. To spend our precious energy agonizing over a future we cannot predict is therefore a useless and draining exercise. The farmer's peace came not from knowing the future, but from being fully present with what was and trusting in his ability to meet it. This does not mean we become passive or neglect our responsibilities. It is vital to distinguish between skillful planning and toxic worry. Skillful, prudent planning is using our thinking mind to look at a likely future and take practical steps. I have a big project due next month, so I will break it down into smaller tasks and schedule them. This kind of thinking is grounded, leads to effective action, and actually reduces anxiety. Toxic worry or rumination is when the mind gets caught in an obsessive, emotional loop of ungrounded what-ifs. It does not lead to action, but to paralysis. What if my project is a total failure? What if my boss hates it? What if I get fired and lose my home? The practice is to notice when our mind crosses the line from prudent planning into toxic worry. When it does, we gently acknowledge it, and then use our tools, the breath, the body, the senses, to guide it back home to the safety of the present moment. By returning to the present, by learning to surf the waves of uncertainty, and by discerning between useful planning and useless worry, we find a peace that is not dependent on having life all figured out. We find a quiet confidence, not in our ability to control the future, but in our ability to meet the present. This stability and grounding allows us to engage with the world from a place of greater clarity and open-heartedness, and there is no area of life that calls for this presence and clarity more profoundly than the intricate, beautiful, and often challenging dance of our relationships with others. With a mind more grounded in the present moment, less tossed about by the storms of anger and the fogs of anxiety, we can now turn to one of the most central and revealing arenas of human life, our relationships. For most of us, love is a landscape of both our greatest joys and our most profound suffering. Conventional love is often a tangled dance of attachment, need, projection, and control. We fall in love with an idea of a person and then spend our energy trying to make them fit that idea. We seek another to complete us, to fill our emptiness, to make us happy. This approach, based on lack and possession, is almost guaranteed to lead to disappointment and pain. But there is another way. We can learn to love with mindfulness. We can transform our relationships from a source of attachment and suffering into a path of shared growth and mutual liberation. The ancient Buddhist teachings offer a beautiful and complete blueprint for this kind of awakened love, known as the Four Immeasurable Minds, or the Brahma Viharas. The first of these, the very foundation of conscious relationship, is metta, or loving kindness. We have touched on this before, but in the context of partnership, it takes on a radical new meaning. It is the active, unconditional wish for the other person's true and lasting happiness. This is a profound shift from the usual romantic script. It is not, "I love you because you make me happy." or I need you to be a certain way for me to love you. It is a simple, powerful, and selfless aspiration. May you be happy. It is a love that gives, rather than a love that seeks to get. The highest form of metta dares to wish for the other's happiness, even if that happiness doesn't include us. It is a love free from the poison of possessiveness. It celebrates the other's freedom and autonomy. It doesn't seek to cage the bird, but rejoices in its flight. This kind of love creates a foundation of trust and safety, where both people feel free to be their authentic selves. The second quality, which grows naturally from the first, is karuna, or compassion. A real relationship is not built on sharing only the sunny days. It reveals its true strength in the storms. Compassion is the ability to be present with your partner's suffering, with their pain, with their imperfections, without turning away. It is the courage to witness their shadow side, their fears, their insecurities, their old wounds with tenderness rather than judgment. It is listening deeply when they are in distress, not with the frantic need to fix their problems, but with the simple, profound intention to understand their heart. It is the active desire to help alleviate their suffering in whatever way is skillful and wise. When a relationship is infused with compassion, it becomes a true sanctuary, a safe harbor where both partners know they can be vulnerable and find unconditional support, especially when they are at their worst. This transforms a partnership from a mere arrangement of convenience into a profound alliance of healing and care. The third quality is perhaps the most challenging for the ego, and therefore one of the most powerful indicators of a mature love. This is mudita, often translated as sympathetic or appreciative joy. It is the ability to rejoice in the happiness and success of your partner, purely and without reservation. It's easy to feel compassion when our partner is suffering. It places us in a position of strength. But can we feel genuine, unadulterated joy when they get a promotion that we wanted, when they have a wonderful experience without us, or when their light shines brightly, perhaps even brighter than our own? In that moment, the opposites of mudita are envy and jealousy. These feelings arise from a sense of lack, from the ego's competitive belief that another's success somehow diminishes our own. Mudita is the cure for this poison. It is the generous, expansive joy that celebrates another's victory as a shared victory. In a conscious relationship, you see your partner's happiness not as a threat, but as a direct contribution to your own. You become their biggest cheerleader. This selfless celebration creates an upward spiral of shared joy that elevates the entire relationship. Finally, there is the fourth quality, upekkha, or equanimity. This is the great balancing force that holds the other three in harmony. Equanimity is not coldness or indifference. It is a spacious, wise, and non-interfering love. It is the crowning jewel of the four. In a relationship, equanimity means releasing the need to control your partner. It is the profound acceptance of them for who they are, right now, not who you want them to be. It is giving them the space and freedom to walk their own path. Even if it diverges from yours, it is trusting in their journey. Upekkha is also the wisdom of impermanence applied directly to love. It is understanding that a relationship is a living, breathing, constantly changing process, not a static monument carved in stone. We love fully and passionately in the present moment, but without the desperate, fearful clinging that tries to prevent change. This quality brings an incredible sense of peace and freedom to a relationship, allowing both individuals to grow without feeling constrained by the other's expectations. These four qualities work together like a beautiful symphony. They are perfectly embodied in the metaphor of the sun's love for the sunflower. The sun represents the awakened heart. It shines its light, its loving kindness, metta, down on the flower, freely and without condition. It offers its warmth, its compassion, karuna, helping the flower to endure the cold nights. The sun celebrates the flower's growth and blossoming, taking joy in its beauty, mudita, without feeling diminished itself. And most importantly, the sun does not demand that the flower turn toward it. It doesn't try to control which way the flower grows or how tall it becomes. It simply offers its life-giving energy and holds the flower in a vast, open space, giving it the freedom to be itself. This is equanimity, upekkha. And what is the result? The sunflower, nourished by this unconditional offering of light and space, naturally and joyfully turns its face toward the sun. This is the nature of true devotion. It cannot be forced by control or clinging. It arises spontaneously in response to freedom, trust, and genuine care. To cultivate these four immeasurable minds is to transform our relationships from a potential battlefield of egos into a sacred ground for spiritual practice. Love becomes not something we fall into, but something we consciously cultivate. A path that leads both partners toward greater wisdom, freedom, and happiness. But even the most conscious love exists within the universal law of impermanence. Life is a river of constant change, and this flow brings with it one of the most profound and inevitable challenges of the human heart, the experience of loss. And the journey through grief. We have journeyed through the mind, observing the arising and passing of thoughts and feelings. We have practiced letting go of the stories that bind us to suffering, and we have cultivated compassion for ourselves and for others. But now, we must venture deeper, to the very foundation of reality itself, to a concept so profound, yet so simple, that it has the power to dissolve the root of our attachments completely. This is the wisdom of emptiness, or shunyata in Sanskrit, a word that often causes confusion, conjuring images of a cold, nihilistic void, a bleak nothingness. But this is a misunderstanding, born from the limits of language. The emptiness taught in this path is not a lack. It is not an absence. It is, in fact, an extraordinary fullness, a radical interconnectedness that, once seen, changes everything. It is not about whether things exist, but how they exist. And understanding this distinction is the key that unlocks ultimate freedom. To grasp this, let us not begin with complex philosophy, but with something simple, something you can hold in your hand, or at least in your mind's eye. Picture a single sheet of paper. It seems simple, solid, a distinct object in the world. We call it paper. We give it a label, and we see it as a separate entity. But let us look deeply. With the eyes of mindfulness and contemplation, if we look deeply into this sheet of paper, we can see a cloud floating within it. This may sound like poetry, but it is a simple truth. Without a cloud, there can be no rain. Without rain, the trees cannot grow. And without trees, we cannot harvest the wood pulp to make the paper. So the cloud is an essential part of the paper's existence. If you remove the cloud, the sheet of paper can no longer be. And if we continue to look, we can see the sunshine. The sunshine is also in the sheet of paper. The tree needs sunlight for photosynthesis. the process that allows it to grow strong and tall. So the sunlight is also there. Remove the sunlight from the universe, and the paper vanishes, and looking further, we see the logger who cut down the tree, his axe, his strength, his sweat, his entire existence is bound up in this piece of paper. His parents are also in the paper, for without them, he would not have been born to cut the tree. The wheat that he ate for his breakfast that morning is in the paper, and the farmer who grew the wheat, and the soil that nourished it, the minerals in the soil, the rain that watered the field. The entire cosmos is present in this single, humble sheet of paper. You can see time, you can see space, you can see the earth, you can see the river. Everything coexists with this paper. If we were to return one of these elements to its source, if we return the sunshine to the sun, the rain to the cloud, the logger to his parents, the paper could not exist. The truth is, this sheet of paper is full of everything except one thing: a separate, independent self. It is empty of existing all by itself. Its existence is dependent on every other thing in the cosmos. It is a product of what the teachings call interbeing. It cannot be by itself. It must interbe with the sun, the cloud, the tree, the logger. This is emptiness, not a void, but a dynamic, interdependent web of existence where nothing has a fixed, isolated identity. The paper is empty of a separate self, but it is full of the universe. Now, let us turn this profound insight towards ourselves. We think of me or I as a solid, continuous, and independent entity. We have a name, a body, a history, a personality. This I feel so real, so central to our experience. But if we look deeply, using the same contemplation we applied to the paper, we find the same truth. This body is not mine in an absolute sense. It is a gift from my parents, from the earth, from the food I have eaten, which is a gift from the sun, the rain, the farmers. Every cell in this body is a temporary visitor, constantly changing, being replaced. The oxygen I breathe connects me to the air, to the trees, to every other breathing being on the planet. I am interbreathing with the world. And what about our mind, our feelings, our thoughts, our consciousness? These are often seen as the core of who we are. But are they solid and permanent? A feeling of joy arises. It stays for a while, and then it vanishes. A thought of anger appears. It burns brightly, and then it fades. A memory surfaces, and then recedes. Our consciousness itself is a stream, a continuous flow of perceptions and awareness, changing from moment to moment. We are like a river. The water flowing in the river is never the same for 2 consecutive moments, yet we still call it the same river. Our sense of self is a convenient label for this ever-changing process. This collection of physical and mental phenomena, this is what the Buddha called the 5 skandhas, or aggregates, form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. When we look for a permanent, independent, I separate from these 5 flowing rivers, we cannot find one. The self is empty of a separate existence. It is a process, not a static thing. Understanding this intellectually is one step, but integrating it into our lived experience is where the true liberation lies. What does this mean for our anxiety, our grief, our sense of failure? It means everything. When we cling to a fixed idea of me, we suffer. We create a story. I am an anxious person. We identify with the anxiety, making it a solid part of our identity. But when we see the emptiness of this I, we realize that anxiety is just a condition, a cloud passing through the vast sky of our being. It is not who we are. It is a temporary formation, arising from causes and conditions. Just like the sheet of paper, seeing its empty nature, its impermanent and conditioned reality, we no longer need to identify with it so strongly. We can let it arise, observe it with kindness, and let it pass, without it defining our core being. When someone insults us, the feeling of hurt arises because we are protecting a solid, important self. But if we see that this self is a fluid process, an interconnected part of everything, the insult loses its target. It's like throwing a rock at a river. It simply gets absorbed into the flow. This doesn't mean we become passive or allow harm, but our reaction comes from a place of wisdom and compassion, not from a wounded ego. We release the obsession with our personal story, our achievements, our failures, our reputation. These are all temporary forms. Like a wave on the ocean, a wave rises from the sea. It has a beginning, a life, and an end. It has a unique form, a height, a power. But is the wave ever truly separate from the ocean? No. It is simply the ocean manifesting in a temporary form. The wave is made of water, and when it recedes, the water returns to the whole. We are like that wave. We have our individual life, our unique journey, but we are never separate from the vast ocean of existence. Our suffering often comes from the wave's illusion of being separate, its fear of crashing on the shore, its envy of bigger waves. When the wave realizes it is the ocean, that fear dissolves, the fear of death, the fear of not being enough, the deep ache of loneliness. All of these are symptoms of this illusion of separation. The wisdom of emptiness is not a denial of our individuality, but an expansion of it. It shows us that our true nature is far vaster, more resilient, and more connected than we ever imagined. Letting go, from this perspective, is not an act of resignation, but an act of alignment with the truth. We let go of our fierce grip on our illusions, our labels, our stories, because we see they were never solid to begin with. We were clutching at smoke. When we finally open our hand, we don't find nothingness. We find everything. We find the cloud, the sunshine, the river, the logger, the entire universe, right here, in the palm of our own interconnected being. This profound seeing is the doorway to a peace that is not dependent on circumstances, because it is rooted in the very nature of reality itself. It is the end of our exile and the beginning of our homecoming. To embrace the Bodhisattva path, to open our hearts to the boundless call of compassion, is an act of immense courage. But as we stand on the shore of this great ocean of intention, a natural question arises from a place of deep sincerity. How do we keep from drowning? The suffering in the world can seem infinite, an endless tide that threatens to overwhelm our own small vessel. The fear of burnout is real. The worry that our own well of energy will run dry is valid. How, then, do we sustain a life of compassionate action without becoming depleted, cynical, or crushed by the weight of it all. The answer lies in one of the most sublime and practical aspects of the path. The understanding that this journey is not meant to be one of grim endurance. It is meant to be nourished, sustained, and illuminated from within by the cultivation of joy and balance. The secret fuel for the long journey of compassion is joy, but this is a very specific kind of joy, known in the ancient traditions as mudita. It translates as sympathetic or appreciative joy. Simply put, mudita is the genuine, unselfish happiness we feel for the happiness of others. It is the heart's capacity to delight in the good fortune, the success, and the well-being of another being in a culture that so often defaults to comparison and competition, where the success of another can trigger a subtle pang of envy or a sense of our own inadequacy. The practice of mudita is a revolutionary act of inner freedom. It is the radical recognition that happiness is not a zero-sum game. It is not a finite pie where another's slice diminishes our own. In fact, the opposite is true. Joy is generative. When we learn to truly celebrate the light in others, our own world becomes immeasurably brighter. Mudita is the direct antidote to the poison of envy, jealousy, and the scarcity mindset that keeps us feeling small and separate. When a colleague receives a promotion, the conditioned mind might whisper, "Why not me?" But the heart trained in mudita consciously chooses a different path. It sees the colleague's happiness, their relief, their pride, and it rejoices with them. How wonderful for you. May your success bring you peace and fulfillment. When we see a couple in love, or a child playing with uninhibited glee, the practice is to allow that beautiful energy to touch us, to be a gift, rather than a reminder of something we may lack. We begin to see that opportunities for joy are everywhere, not just in our own personal achievements. The world is constantly offering us reasons to be happy. If only we would train our attention to see them. This cultivation is a gentle, daily practice. It begins by noticing. Notice the small joys around you, the stranger's relief when you hold the door for them, the shared laughter between friends at a nearby table, the pride on a parent's face watching their child perform. Instead of letting these moments slide by, take a second to consciously acknowledge them. Breathe them in. Let the feeling of warmth and appreciation settle in your heart. You can even make it a formal practice. At the end of each day, by bringing to mind one instance where you witnessed the happiness of another and taking a moment to fully rejoice in it. This simple exercise retrains the mind, shifting its focus from lack to abundance, and in doing so, it fills our own reserves with a boundless, selfless energy that can then fuel our compassionate actions. However, a heart that is only open to joy would be incomplete, for life inevitably brings sorrow. If we are to serve the world, we must be able to face its pain without being destroyed by it. This is where we cultivate the second great pillar of the radiant heart, upekkha, or equanimity. Equanimity is perhaps the most misunderstood of the heart practices. It is not cold detachment, apathy, or a lack of caring. It is the opposite. It is a profound, spacious, and unshakable balance of mind that allows us to care deeply, to love fiercely, and to act decisively without being thrown off balance by the turbulent winds of life. It is the deep, abiding peace that comes from accepting the nature of reality. With all its inherent ups and downs, there is a timeless story that perfectly illustrates this quality. An old farmer lived in a small village. One day his only horse, which he relied on for ploughing his fields, ran away. His neighbors gathered to offer their sympathy, "What terrible luck," they said. The farmer simply shrugged and replied, "Maybe." The next morning, the horse returned, and it brought with it a herd of 10 wild, magnificent horses. The neighbors rushed over to celebrate. "What incredible good fortune," they exclaimed. The farmer calmly replied, "Maybe." The following day, the farmer's son was attempting to train one of the wild horses when he was thrown off and his leg was badly broken. The neighbors came again, shaking their heads. "What a terrible disaster." They lamented. "Maybe," said the farmer. A week later, the emperor's army marched into the village, conscripting every able-bodied young man for a brutal war they were unlikely to survive. When they saw the farmer's son with his broken leg, they passed him by. The neighbors, overwhelmed with relief for the farmer, came to him and said, "You are truly blessed. What amazing luck." And the farmer, looking out over his field, simply said, "Maybe." This maybe is the heart of equanimity. It is the wisdom that understands that we rarely see the full picture. We are quick to label events as good or bad, but these are just judgments based on a limited, short-term perspective. Equanimity is the ability to be with life's experiences, gain and loss, praise and blame, pleasure and pain with an open, non-reactive presence. It is like a great mountain. The weather on the mountain is always changing. Fierce winds of criticism may blow. The hot sun of success may beat down. The cold rain of failure may fall. But the mountain itself remains unmoved, stable, and profoundly at peace. Equanimity allows our heart to become this mountain, grounded in a deep trust in the flow of life, providing a stable foundation from which we can engage with the world. Mudita and upekkha are not separate qualities. They are two sides of the same coin. They work together to create a resilient, radiant heart. Equanimity is the vast, open sky, and sympathetic joy is the brilliant sun that shines within it. Equanimity creates the emotional space and stability so that we are not overwhelmed by suffering, while sympathetic joy fills that space with light and warmth, preventing equanimity from becoming cold or distant. It is this powerful combination that allows a bodhisattva to keep their heart open to both the 10,000 sorrows and the 10,000 joys of the world. It provides the strength to sit with a friend in their darkest grief, and the open-heartedness to genuinely celebrate their greatest triumphs. Therefore, the path of the bodhisattva is not one of self-sacrifice, but one of profound self-cultivation. We sustain ourselves not by hardening our hearts to the world, but by making them more skillful, more resilient, and more vast. We learn to refuel our capacity for giving by learning to drink from the universal well of joy. And we learn to stand firm in our commitment by grounding ourselves in the unshakable mountain of peace. This balanced heart, radiant with joy and unwavering in its calm, is not a superpower reserved for saints. It is our innate potential, a quality we can cultivate with every breath, with every interaction, turning our life into a sustainable source of light for ourselves and for all beings. We have journeyed far in our exploration of the heart and mind, touching upon the vast wisdom of emptiness, the boundless call of compassion, and the quiet power of joy and equanimity. These can feel like grand, noble concepts, perhaps best suited for a silent mountaintop or a secluded monastery. We may listen and feel inspired, yet a familiar, nagging question often arises as we return to the reality of our daily lives. How do I practice this when my children are shouting? When my email inbox is overflowing? When I am stuck in traffic? When I am simply tired? There is a pervasive myth that our real practice is something we must get to later. When we finally have the time, when life calms down, when conditions are perfect, we treat our own awakening as a destination, a future event we are working towards. But the most profound teaching of these wisdom traditions is also the simplest. This is it. This moment, right now, with all of its noise and imperfection, is the only moment you will ever have to be awake. The future is a thought. The past is a memory. The only ground of reality is the present. Therefore, the ultimate path is not about escaping our life, but about inhabiting it so fully that it becomes our monastery. The challenge is not to find a quiet place to practice, but to find the quiet practice in every place. Your life, exactly as it is the curriculum. Every person you interact with is your teacher. Every task before you is your meditation. There is a celebrated Zen saying that encapsulates this beautifully. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. On the surface, nothing changes. The chores of life remain. The dishes still need to be washed. The bills still need to be paid. The work still needs to be done. What changes is not the activity itself, but the quality of awareness we bring to it. It is the shift from doing an activity to get it over with, to being fully present with the activity as it unfolds. This transforms the mundane into the sacred. It dissolves the artificial boundary we create between our spiritual life and our real life, revealing them to be one and the same. Let us take the simple act of washing a cup. For most of us, when we wash a cup, our body is at the sink, but our mind is somewhere else entirely. We are planning our evening, rehashing a conversation, worrying about a future event. We are treating the act of washing the cup as an obstacle to be overcome so we can move on to the next, more important thing. But what if, just for this one cup, you decided to truly be there? What if you made the act of washing the cup your entire world for 2 minutes? You would feel the warmth of the water enveloping your hands. You would see the iridescent, rainbow-like sheen of the soap bubbles. You would hear the soft friction of the sponge against the ceramic. You would notice the weight of the cup in your hand. In being fully present with this one simple, ordinary act, you are not just washing a cup, you are practicing mindfulness. You are cultivating patience. You are anchoring yourself in the reality of the present moment. The cup becomes your teacher, and the sink becomes your meditation hall. This practice can be woven into the fabric of your entire day. When you walk from your car to your office door, you can transform it from a mindless transit into a walking meditation. Instead of being lost in thought, you can bring your attention to the physical sensations of walking. Feel the solid ground beneath your feet. Notice the rhythm of your own stride, the feeling of the air on your skin. Each step becomes an anchor to the here and now. When you eat a meal, for just the first 3 bites, can you eat in silence, without the distraction of a screen or a conversation? Can you truly taste the food? Can you acknowledge the immense web of causes and conditions that brought this food to your plate? The sun, the rain, the soil, the farmer, the truck driver. This simple act of mindful eating connects you back to the truth of interbeing we explored earlier. It is helpful to think of the relationship between formal and informal practice. Formal practice, when you set aside time to sit quietly on a cushion, even for just 10 minutes a day, is like going to the gymnasium for the mind. It is a dedicated space where you intentionally train your attention, building the muscle of mindfulness and concentration in a controlled environment. This is vital, but the purpose of building muscle in the gym is not just to be strong in the gym. The purpose is to have that strength available for your life, to carry things, to move with ease, to be resilient. Informal practice, weaving mindfulness into your daily activities, is the application of that strength. It is using the muscle you built on the cushion in the world. The two practices support each other in a beautiful feedback loop. Your formal sitting makes it easier to be present while washing the cup, and your practice of presence while washing the cup gives deeper meaning and purpose to your time on the cushion. A young monk once traveled to study with the great Zen master Zhaozhou. After arriving, he eagerly sought out the master and said, "I am new to this monastery. I ask for your guidance. Please, teach me the way." Zhaozhou looked at him and asked, "Have you eaten your morning porridge yet?" The monk, a bit surprised, replied, "Yes, Master, I have." Zhaozhou then said, "Then you had better go wash your bowl." In that instant, the young monk understood. The teaching was not in some hidden scroll or secret technique. The path was not separate from his life. The way was right in front of him to fully engage with the simple, immediate reality of his life, to wash his bowl. This practice of inhabiting the moment is not just for pleasant or neutral experiences. Its true power is revealed in how we meet difficulty. When a painful emotion like anxiety, anger, or grief arises, our habitual tendency is to resist it, suppress it, or distract ourselves from it. The practice of the everyday monastery invites a different response. It invites us to turn gently towards the difficult emotion with curiosity and kindness. We learn to acknowledge it without being consumed by it. We can say to ourselves, "Ah, this is the feeling of anger arising." We can notice where we feel it in the body, the tightness in the jaw, the heat in the chest, the clenching in the stomach. We simply observe it as a powerful, impersonal energy moving through us. Without necessarily believing the stories, the angry mind is shouting. In doing this, we are creating a space of awareness around the emotion. We are holding it, rather than being held by it. This is the application of equanimity in real time. This is where we find true inner strength and freedom, not by avoiding life's storms, but by learning how to meet them with a steady, compassionate, and present heart. This is how we transform our entire life into a seamless path of awakening. We have walked a long path together on this journey inward. We have explored the deep nature of reality through the lens of emptiness. We have opened our hearts to the call of compassion. We have learned to cultivate the inner resources of joy and equanimity. And we have brought our practice into the very fabric of our daily lives. Now, we arrive at a crucial question. What is the culmination of all this effort? What is the ultimate fruit that grows from the seed of mindfulness we have so patiently watered? The answer is simple. Yet it holds the entire world. The fruit of this path is freedom. But this is a kind of freedom that may be very different from the one we have been conditioned to seek. Our society often portrays freedom as an external condition, the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want, free from constraints and limitations. It is the freedom to accumulate, to consume, to control our environment, to match our preferences. But this external freedom is fragile. It is dependent on circumstances that are forever changing. A shift in health, in finances, in relationships can cause this freedom to vanish in an instant. The freedom discovered on the wisdom path is of another order entirely. It is an inner freedom. It is not freedom from the challenges of life, but freedom within the challenges of life. It is an unshakable quality of being that no external event can tarnish, because its source lies within our own mind. Primarily, this is freedom from the relentless inner narrator, the voice of the ego that has been running our lives for so long. For most of us, our inner world is a noisy place, dominated by a tyrannical voice that is constantly judging, comparing, craving, and resisting. It whispers, "This is good. I want more. This is bad. It shouldn't be happening. I am not as successful as they are. I will only be happy when..." This ceaseless commentary creates a layer of friction, a constant tension between ourselves and the present moment. The entire practice of mindfulness, of observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment, is a quiet revolution against this inner tyrant. We learn to see its pronouncements not as gospel truth, but simply as mental events, like clouds passing in the sky. As we stop feeding it with our belief, its grip on us loosens. We are no longer a slave to our own conditioned reactions. This is the dawn of real freedom. Imagine your life as a great and powerful river, flowing inexorably from its source to the sea. This river is the flow of time, of cause and effect, of reality itself. For most of our lives, we behave like a person in a small boat, trying with all our might to row upstream against the current. We believe that security and happiness lie in resisting the river's flow, in trying to get back to a place in the past, or in struggling to reach a fixed point on the opposite bank. This effort is heroic, but it is also utterly exhausting and ultimately futile. It is a constant battle against the nature of reality, and it is the source of our deepest anxieties and fatigue. The whole path we have explored together, all the wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness, is simply the process of learning to turn the boat around. It is the moment of insight when we realize the wisdom in cooperating with the river. We do not abandon our boat. We are still in this life, this body, this set of circumstances, and we do not throw away our paddle. Our paddle is our intention, our ethics, our capacity for skillful action. But now, we use the paddle not to fight the current, but to navigate it. We move with the flow of life, using our wisdom to steer around the sharp rocks of potential harm and to guide ourselves into the clear, deep channels of well-being. The sense of struggle dissolves, replaced by a feeling of grace, ease, and intelligent participation. This is freedom. It is the freedom of moving with, rather than against, the grain of existence. This river is the river of impermanence. We often view change as an enemy, because our ego wants to build a permanent fortress on the riverbank. But the unburdened mind comes to see impermanence, not as a source of grief, but as the very signature of life. It is the cosmic rhythm that makes growth, creativity, and love possible. Without impermanence, there could be no new beginnings. A flower could never bloom. A child could never grow. A wound could never heal. To be free is to learn how to dance to this music of change. It means we can fully appreciate the beauty of the rose in its perfect bloom without being shattered when its petals inevitably fall. For we understand that the falling is part of the dance, nourishing the soil for future life. A beautiful Zen story illustrates this state of mind perfectly. Two monks, one senior and one junior, were on a pilgrimage. They arrived at a river that was swollen by recent rains. A young woman stood at the bank, hesitating, afraid to cross. The senior monk, seeing her distress, immediately walked over, lifted her onto his back, carried her through the rushing water, and set her down gently on the other side. He then continued on his way without a word. The junior monk followed, his mind in turmoil. He was scandalized. Their monastic vows strictly forbade them from touching a woman. How could his master have so brazenly broken such a fundamental rule? For hours, he walked behind in seething, silent judgment. Finally, he could contain himself no longer. He ran to catch up with his master and burst out, "Master, I must ask you, why did you carry that woman across the river? You know we are forbidden to do such a thing." The old monk looked at his young companion with a calm, gentle expression. "I left that woman by the river hours ago." He said, "Why are you still carrying her? This story is a profound teaching on freedom." The senior monk responded to the need of the moment with unhesitating compassion. His action was spontaneous, skillful, and free from any attachment to rigid rules or personal gain. And once the action was complete, he let it go completely. His mind was unburdened. The junior monk, on the other hand, was trapped by his fixed ideas, his judgments, and his mental rehearsals. He was carrying a heavy burden in his mind long after the actual event was over. How many such burdens are we carrying right now? A resentment from last year, an embarrassing memory from childhood, an anxiety about a future that has not yet happened. To be free is to have the wisdom and the courage to put them down. This freedom is not a state of apathy or inaction. It is the very foundation for the most powerful and effective engagement with the world. When the mind is clear, present, and unburdened by the ghosts of the past or the fears of the future, it can perceive the reality of any situation with stunning clarity. Out of this clarity arises a spontaneous, intelligent, and compassionate response. It is the action of the bodhisattva, flowing not from a sense of grim duty, but from a heart that is so open and attuned to life that it knows exactly what is needed. This is the ultimate fruition of letting go a mind at ease, a heart at peace, and a life lived in graceful, courageous harmony with the ever-changing, ever-beautiful flow of what is. And so, our journey together comes to a gentle close. We began where so many of us find ourselves, in a state of quiet struggle, a feeling of being caught in the relentless current of modern life, burdened by the weight of stories we never realized we were carrying. We felt the friction of resisting a world that would not bend to our will, and we longed for a peace that seemed impossibly distant. From that starting place, we walked a path inward. We learned to simply sit, to watch the restless theater of the mind, and to see that we are not the thoughts, but the silent, spacious awareness in which they arise and pass away. We touched the profound and liberating truth of impermanence, seeing it not as a source of loss, but as the very pulse of life that gives us permission to finally let go. Looking deeply, we saw through the illusion of the solid, separate self, discovering instead a vast and beautiful web of interbeing that connects us to everything. From that wisdom, a natural compassion was born, an effortless empathy for all beings caught in the same dream of separation. We learned to fuel this compassionate heart with the selfless joy of mudita and to ground it in the unshakable stability of upekkha, creating a spirit that could remain open to both the beauty and the sorrow of the world. And finally, we brought this entire journey home, transforming our daily life into our monastery, discovering that every breath, every step, every simple task is a sacred opportunity to practice, to be present, and to be free. We learn to turn our boat around and flow with the great river of life, not in resignation, but in graceful cooperation. If there is one core message, one simple truth to carry forth from our time together, let it be this: peace is not a destination you must fight to reach. It is not an achievement to be unlocked or a prize to be won. Peace is your nature. It is the silent, spacious ground of your own being that has been here all along, waiting patiently for you to return home. The frantic search for lasting peace in the outer world is bound to end in frustration, for it is a search for something outside of you that can only ever be found within. You do not need to acquire anything new. The key to your own freedom, the capacity for kind awareness, has been in your possession the entire time. Therefore, walk forward from this moment with a quiet confidence in your own inner resources. Do not be discouraged when the mind's old habits return, for they are just clouds passing through the vast, open sky of your true nature. Remember always that you are the sky, not the clouds. Your breath is your most loyal friend, an anchor always available to guide you back to the sanctuary of the present moment. Your heart already knows how to be kind. Trust this innate goodness. Trust the unfolding of your own beautiful and unique life. This path has never been about becoming a perfect person. It has always been about unbecoming everything that was never truly you, so that you may rest in the profound peace of the being you have always been. May you walk gently, may your heart be light, and may you find your truest home in the simple, sacred peace of this very moment.